Meet Tang Yomyong, a kid born straight into the elite bloodline of toxic arts and concealed blades, the legendary Sichuan Tang clan. But their top-tier status totally shattered after waging an all-out bloodbath against the Demon Lord, who was absolutely obsessed with snatching Yeonmyeong's mom. With his dad dead and buried, our boy is left tanking non-stop hate and brutal bullying, making his life a literal walking nightmare. That is, until one random day, a glowing mystical blade suddenly triggers his ultimate past life memories, revealing he used to be an absolute god of swordsmanship. Now, in his current life, his only real goal is to stay low-key and chill, but to pull that off, he has to totally demolish the haters blocking his path. Real quick before we dive deeper into this insane glow-up, smash that like button, since our goal today is exactly 1,500 likes, and hit subscribe to catch more epic recaps. The vibe shifts as a booming voice echoes in the void, roaring witness the absolute peak of the blade. Boom. Cut to a massive dude chilling in a lotus stance, right on a cliff edge, hands resting on his knees, eyes dead shut. This absolute unit is totally shredded, rocking gnarly battle scars across his entire face and body, his fists wrapped in busted gray tape, and his pitch-black hair tied back tight. Right in front of him, a legendary sword is jammed straight into the dirt, sporting a sick crimson ribbon on the hilt that dances gracefully in the wind, hovering perfectly above his head. He flashes back to his master's final moments, remembering how this very blade was his ultimate parting gift. After grinding his sword skills for over a solid century, he has literally maxed out his journey. Suddenly, a brutal cough wrecks his lungs, sending thick drops of crimson splattering right down his wrinkled chin. He lets out a massive sigh, realizing his insane grind means absolutely nothing, with the Grim Reaper knocking at his door, glaring intensely at his calloused palms. He deeply regrets wasting his entire existence hyper-fixated on a weapon. He catches himself, wishing he had spent all those decades mastering pancake flipping instead, because honestly, at least then he would have whipped up an absolute feast to show for it. Cut to the present timeline, we spot a scrawny kid rocking red hair, tied up in a totally botched samurai bun, getting absolutely jumped by a squad of toxic bullies. Face planted straight in the dirt, he is just praying for a boring, average life. The main instigator, this obnoxious kid flexing snow-white hair and ice-blue eyes, pauses completely baffled by that wish before bursting into laughter and kicking our boy even harder, totally roasting his dream of being normal. Our dude is getting tossed around worse than a dusty rug during spring cleaning. The poor redhead gnashes his teeth in pure agony, choking back heavy groans as every single strike connects. His main hater keeps stomping him with pure, unhinged villain energy, spitting that the spawn of the witch who ruined their entire bloodline should be thanking the heavens they did not exile his trashy self, while the battered kid desperately throws his arms over his skull, scrambling in the dirt, and totally failing to block the absolute beatdown raining on him. Flashback to the not-so-distant past, the untouchable Sichuan Tang clan, legends of toxic warfare, and lethal projectiles took a massive dive. The winding paths transformed into an absolute slaughterhouse littered with corpses like tossed candy wrappers. Plumes of thick black smoke choked the horizon as sprawling manors burned down to ash. Right in the middle of this total nightmare, their towering main fortress exploded into a raging inferno, showering the sky with blazing embers. The courtyard was completely painted with fallen warriors, absolutely shredded by flying blades and piercing arrows, all victims of a terrifying new Murim powerhouse who had already wiped out roughly 9 other major factions. Enter Yeon Jongyuk, the terrifying demon lord of heavenly radiance, chilling right in the center of the carnage. This guy is an absolute fever dream of pure flex and nightmare fuel, rocking blazing red hair in a kimono that screams action movie energy dialed to the max, paired with ocean blue eyes that could literally freeze you dead on the spot. He absolutely hates wasting time. When this absolute menace spots something he wants, he snatches it immediately. His vibe was pure, unfiltered dominance. If you dared to reject his insane demands, he would casually resort to absolute violence. Catch his eye as a gorgeous girl. He drops a forced marriage proposal on the spot, and if you try to ghost or reject him, he literally kidnaps you with zero hesitation. That psychotic level of obsession inevitably crashed right into the Sichuan Tang family. He locked eyes on the poison phoenix, Tang Jihei, the fierce beauty, rocking a signature crimson braid, and decided she was his ultimate prize. Squaring off against this demonic powerhouse, who pulled up just to steal her away, the entire Tang clan threw hands with every ounce of their power, but completely draining their resources to fight back, basically speedran the total collapse of their legendary family. Jumping back to the present, the toxic trio is still absolutely wrecking the red-haired kid. He is eating heavy blows like a human stunt double, straight out of a brutal action movie. A savage hook busts his nose open, sending crimson streaming down his face. He desperately attempts to push himself up, planting a shaky, bruised hand in the mud behind him, while his bullies just stand there grinning like absolute psychos. The white-haired menace winds up another punch, scoffing, How are you tapping out already? He makes it super clear the torture session just started. The battered kid grinds his teeth in pure rage, his filthy face painted with busted lips and nasty bruises. Shooting death glares at his tormentor, who responds with a ruthless kick straight to the jaw, screaming at him to stop staring. The completely broken boy throws his hands over his battered face and collapses right back into the dirt. The white-haired punk flashes a toxic smirk, sneering that if he hates his miserable life so much, he should go cry to his deadbeat mom. After a minute, those three teenage menaces strut off into the sunset, acting like the main villains of a cheesy western, leaving our red-haired main character absolutely wrecked on the dirt, looking like a total NPC in a zero-budget action movie. Sporting a crushed ego and even worse bruises, he just lies there, questioning his trash-tier luck. And why? Because his mom managed to catch the eye of the demon lord of heavenly radiance, accidentally sparking a massive family beef straight out of reality TV. Hours later, under a massive full moon, his shoulders are slumped so hard he looks completely defeated. Head hanging low, our guy drags his feet toward the warm glow of his house like a lost puppy looking for a safe zone. The whole walk back, the relentless trash talk and disrespect thrown at his family, just replay on an endless loop in his mind. The front door creeps open. His mom, Tang Ji-hye, peeks out, her voice shaking as she asks why he took so long. One look at her son's wrecked state leaves her totally paralyzed. She instantly sprints over, screaming his name, Tang Yeon-myung. Freaking out over his bruised-up face, Tang Yeon-myung just lets out this awkward chuckle, scratching the back of his neck. He swears he is perfectly fine, but right on cue, he literally coughs up red, holding back tears. She begs to know if those kids jumped him again. Slapping on a fake smile, he totally denies it, claiming he just wiped out, while roughhousing with the boys. His mom panics about permanent scars, but he instantly brushes it off, promising to stay safe next time before dodging into his bedroom. She calls out to ask if he had dinner, hoping a warm meal might fix his shattered vibe, but he just claims he is not hungry, flopping onto his mattress. Tang Yeon-myung knows his mom is absolutely blameless, yet he has literally zero people in his corner. Speaking up would only trigger massive payback, exactly like what went down with his dad who got stealthily taken out. And packing their bags, that instantly strips away their only shield. Honestly, going rogue sounds about as smart as skydiving with a backpack instead of a parachute. One slip up out there, and it is game over. Staring at the ceiling, he wonders if his dad could have rewritten this terrible timeline. Fast forward 24 hours, and that exact same toxic squad is completely throwing hands at Tang Yeon-myung all over again. One guy aggressively mocks him, telling him to drop the dramatic act, because this beatdown is barely getting started. Right as the hits start hitting way too hard, the sole girl in the clique, Tang Yeon-ryung, snaps at them to chill, claiming she actually prepped some special toys for him. Out of nowhere, she whips out a needle kit, hyping herself up to test toxic brews on our guy. With the massive clan leader tournament looming this absolute unit of a bully, Tang Jong-il pins Tang Yeon-myung straight into the dirt. He whispers that one bad poke could totally paralyze him, ordering him to act grateful for the tight grip, while Tang Yeon-ryung kicks off her twisted science project. She casually promises the venom will not actually unalive him. Once she logs the crazy side effects, she will hand over the cure. Flashing a supervillain smirk, she sinks the needle in taunting that checking out early is absolutely not an option. While Tang Yeon-myung violently shivers, she treats his agonizing skin reactions like a front-row comedy show. Hours drag on. The sky totally opens up, pouring rain. He actually considers just closing his eyes to escape the glitching matrix, but a massive thought hits him. If he clocks out now, his mom is left completely defenseless. His soul burns for the raw power needed to keep her safe. More than anything, he just wants enough strength to guard his family, and finally unlock a ridiculously normal life. Right in that desperate moment, a glowing blade catches his eye. It literally materialized out of nowhere, radiating an insanely familiar vibe. Wrapping his fingers around the hilt, reality shatters. This is his blade, the exact weapon he grinded with for over 100 years. Memories flood back of forging the ultimate weapon in his past run. He mastered countless techniques, yet it felt totally useless, because peaking in stats did not stop his own demise. Total regret hit him like a truck back then. If he ever scored a respawn, all he wanted was a drama-free existence. Now, the download is complete. Every single memory from his past is unlocked. He was an absolute god tier, swordmaster before, and in this current playthrough, he is Tang Yeon-myung. Ripping the blade from the earth, a blinding white aura completely swallows him. His mind is set, moving forward. He is grabbing that normal life by force. Fast forward to morning. His mom begs him to stay indoors heavily, stressing over yesterday's damage. But our boy Tang Yeon-myung, packing zero quit, and moving with crazy new confidence, casually waves off her panic like it is nothing, swearing he is untouchable today. Cut to the white-haired menace, Yang Mun-chan, who is fully convinced their favorite punching bag is ghosting them. Tang Jong-il laughs, claiming if the kid wants to spare his mom the sight of his crushed face, he will definitely show up to take his punishment. Yang Munchan violently promises to absolutely fold him if he dares to step foot on their turf. Mere seconds pass, and Tang Yun-myung simply strolls in. Yang Munchan drops from a branch trying to act playful, but our guy gives zero reaction. The bully immediately starts talking trash, super confused about why he looks perfectly healed. Smirking, Tang Yun-myung drops the ultimate flex, confidently declaring that those weak hits will literally never affect him again. He drops their actual names, leaving the bullies totally shook. They think the dude has straight up lost his mind. Muscles tighten. Zhang Jiol grinds his teeth ready to unleash years of pent-up rage. In a flash, the tables completely turn. These bullies are standing there glitching out, wondering if they just stepped into an alternate dimension. Tang Yun-myung dials up the disrespect, calling out every single one of them, by name, a flex that absolutely triggers Tang Wai-ryong. She literally debates flat-out murdering him, or just doubling his poison intake. But before she decides, Zhang Jiol lunges. In a blur, Tang Yun-myung snatches his skull. Bam! He slams Zhang Jiol's face straight into the dirt. The massive guy collapses like a sack of bricks, leaving the entire squad paralyzed with shock. Pure panic spreads. Tang Yun-myung stalks toward them, ruthlessly mocking their garbage skills while they still dream of entering the clan leader tournament. Catching on to this terrifying aura shift, Munchan snaps out of it and charges him head-on. Big mistake. Tang Yun-myung casually catches Munchan's fist midair, twists it with savage force, and shatters his bones to dust. Without blinking, he boldly announces that the race for clan leader, yeah, it's basically a wrap. Cut to the hidden poison hall. It used to be this legendary sanctuary for the patriarch, but now, it's just a glorified break room where crusty elders sip tea and gossip about family drama. Right now, they are heavily debating the roster for the upcoming succession war. The million-dollar question is the Poison Phoenix's kid, throwing his hat in the ring. So far, absolute radio silence. The head elder actually wants him disqualified. Why? Because the kid has been a literal punching bag for years, without fighting back once. One boomer speaks up, sweating slightly. Wait, aren't we talking about Tang Yun-myung, the flesh and blood of the former patriarch? The rest immediately shut that down. Bloodline or not, they refuse to let a zero-skill weakling drag down the prestige of their deadly tournament. Sure, he possesses royal blood, but right now he is nothing more than dead weight to the syndicate. Right on cue, the heavy doors blast open. Tang Yun-myung swaggers into the chamber like a complete menace, literally dragging erect Tang Wai-ryong across the floor by her hair. The Grand Elder barks a harsh warning, demanding to know if this kid understands the massive target he just painted on his back. Our absolute Gigachad smirks. Oh, he knows. The room falls dead silent as he lifts Tang Wai-ryong's completely disfigured face for the entire council to see. Jaws hit the floor. Meanwhile, Tang Yun-myung stays ice-cold, staring them down and declaring his pacifist era officially over. The days of him being a punching bag are dead. Furious, an elder screams, asking how he dares to cripple an official tournament candidate. Tang Yun-myung claps back instantly with undeniable logic. He practically recites their own rulebook back to them. And guess what? Pre-tournament brawls between official participants. Perfectly legal. The Grand Elder narrows his eyes, asking the ultimate question. Is this his twisted way of announcing his entry into the bloodbath? Tang Yun-myung drops a cold smirk, asking if dragging a broken rival in here wasn't proof enough. Oh, and as a bonus, he casually drops some news about the courtyard. Those main bullies, Munchan and Zhang Jiol, yeah, they are currently planted headfirst in the dirt outside. He stares holes into the elders, emphasizing he is strictly following family tradition, repay favors double, and return disrespect 10 times over. The boy stands tall. He just violently proved his worth, meaning these old men have zero power to block his entry. A few elders start crying about him using a legal loophole to dodge an assault charge, but the Grand Elder waves them off and officially stamps his ticket to the games. But the old man issues a chilling ultimatum. With a stunt this arrogant, the kid better take the crown. If he loses, the backlash will be fatal. On that ominous note, the explosive summit regarding his tournament entry forcefully wraps up. Flash forward. His mother is absolutely stressed, grilling him on why he would willingly dive into this death trap. Tang Yun-myung stands his ground. He swears this is not some impulsive teenage phase, it is survival. Looking into his eyes, she spots a terrifying, unyielding potential simmering beneath his young face. Wisely, she decides not to pry into his secret martial arts or ask how her supposedly weak son just folded 3 trained killers. Instead, she looks him dead in the soul, asking for the raw truth. Can he actually win this nightmare tournament? Dropping his killer aura, he gives her an adorable cheeky grin. He asks who she thinks she is talking to. He is literally the blood of the Poison Phoenix. Tears instantly flood her eyes. Overflowing with pride, she pulls him into a tight embrace, leaving Tang Yun-myung to quietly savor the irreplaceable warmth of a mother's love. In his mind, a dark promise solidifies. He will protect this woman and his peaceful days at all costs, vowing to brutally slaughter anyone who dares threaten their vibe. Fast forward 1 month. The dreaded day finally drops, and Tang Yun-myung packs up to step into the bloody arena. Meanwhile, his uncle Jiggle Wee is sweating bullets. He corners Tang Jihei, anxiously suggesting they pull the plug on this whole suicide mission. He desperately reminds her that this gauntlet is an actual meat grinder, a brutal reality she knows intimately. But Tang Jihei refuses. Cherishing their final peaceful moments, she firmly orders him to back off. She highlights the kid's insane ice-cold composure and warrior spirit that totally betrays his young age. Reluctantly, Jiggle Hui caves, though the boy's reckless confidence still gives him massive anxiety. Tang Jihei then softly thanks the man. She genuinely appreciates the heavy backing from him and the notorious Dark King faction. Jiggle Hui just nods, admitting that with the absolute chaos her son just sparked, stepping out of the shadows is his only option. He fully admits he's expecting massive things from the kid. Still, he can't help but wonder if letting Tang Yeonmyeong skip out on group training is actually a smart move. Off on his own, Yeonmyeong keeps grinding solo. He figures his current routine is hitting the mark perfectly, making sure he doesn't burn out by keeping his physical balance in check. He's inhaling his mom's nutrient-packed home-cooked meals, catching some serious sleep, and running internal breathing cycles to literally untangle his messed-up blood vessels. Our boy realizes that just spamming stat points into raw strength and flashy techniques isn't the meta right now. Instead, he desperately needs to level up his actual hardware, fortifying the very physical vessel meant to channel his crazy power. At just 12 years old, his entire Meridian network is practically a blank slate, totally free of that nasty built-up grime most fighters have. Once he actually starts scaling up, his body's gonna naturally evolve anyway. But keeping a rock-solid foundation is literally everything right now. Yeonmyeong locks in on this mindset, knowing that maxing out his physical growth means prioritizing deep rest and real food. Soon enough, it's time to bounce. Yeonmyeong hugs his mom goodbye, telling her to stay safe while Cheonggak chimes in, saying it was totally awesome meeting her. With that, they head out to absolutely crash this tournament. Watching them leave, his mom spots that undeniable fire in her son's eyes, and whispers to the sky. She tells her late husband exactly what a unit their boy has become, heartbroken that he isn't here to witness it. Flash forward to the Dark King Hall. The hype is real as competitors pile in, but Yeonmyeong, he's chilling way early in the cut, casually snacking on a rice cake. One random guy spots him, and instantly starts whispering, saying he's the Poison Phoenix's kid. A dude nearby nods, dropping the bomb that this is the exact same Tang Yeonmyeong who absolutely folded Mu Chen. Someone else immediately calls cap though, arguing that Yeonmyeong is literally a martial arts dropout. Once that rumor drops, the whole room starts trash talking, whining about how the entry standards must be completely in the gutter if this kid got an invite. Catching all this massive disrespect, Yeonmyeong just raises an eyebrow, completely unbothered. Then one absolute bozo actually suggests jumping him right on the spot. But before the guy can even blink, a total mystery object decks the bully right in the dome. Another hater instantly starts barking, screaming that Yeonmyeong is packing hidden weapons. But a confused bystander squints and points out, "Bro, that's literally just a half-eaten rice cake." Without breaking a sweat, Yeonmyeong finally speaks up. He casually reminds this entire clown car of a mob, that Mu Chen only brought 2 goons while they're rolling completely deep. But wait, he smirks, did you guys seriously not catch the news? About how Mu Chen's entire squad got absolutely demolished. He then hits them with the ultimate flex. It doesn't matter if they missed the memo, because he's about to give them a live demonstration. Yeonmyeong states cold hard facts, even with a busted hand. Mu Chen stood his ground. Staring daggers into them, he asks, "Are you losers gonna run?" Completely triggered by the disrespect, the head bully loses his mind and screams at his crew to wreck the kid, demanding they take him out right this second. Fast forward maybe 2 seconds, and one of those exact goons gets yeeted straight through the main doors, crashing right at the feet of a super confused Jiggle Hui. Staring down at the unconscious dude, Jiggle Hui connects the dots, realizing this has to be one of the competitors, and instantly starts sweating bullets over what just went down. Sprinting into the courtyard, Jiggle Hui's jaw absolutely drops. The place is a literal war zone. He snaps, screaming at the top of his lungs to find out who started this bloodbath. Sitting in the middle of the chaos, totally chill, Yeonmyeong just shrugs and says he was getting a little bored waiting. Instantly, the crowd swarms the Grand Elder, whining that they absolutely cannot let this slide. One elder steps up panicking, pointing out how insane it is to have this many casualties, literally moments before the actual tournament starts. Grand Elder gets a massive wake-up call. If a total menace like this actually becomes the next clan leader, they are completely cooked. He immediately calls an audible, suggesting they completely rewrite the tournament rules on the fly. After a quick huddle, the higher-ups march right back to the arena where the surviving challengers are waiting. Cut to the pit, one girl looks totally lost, asking how this whole deathmatch even works. A girl rocking glasses leans in and spills the tea, whispering that everyone has to survive a brutal 2 to 3 year boot camp up on Kongtong Mountain, before throwing down in pure one-on-one combat. Mind blown, the first girl demands to know who this nerd even is, but Glasses Girl totally plays it cool, claiming she was just being helpful. Not buying it, the first girl points out that the tournament format is classified Tier 1 info. So how exactly did she find out? Smirking, the girl in glasses flexes that her dad is top brass at the main office, meaning she gets all the leaked insider info. Before they can gossip anymore, a booming voice orders the entire room to shut up. Jigal Hui steps up, officially declaring the games open, and casually drops that he's the Dark King clan leader running this entire show. Then he starts laying out the survival mechanics. The crowd goes absolutely feral. They're staring at the youngest leader in literal history. He drops the rules. This bloodbath is a 4-year grind. Year 1. It's all about locking in your class build, whether you're speccing into insane sword combos or min-maxing a toxic poison build. For the next 2 years, you get thrown into intense master apprentice training with elite warriors breathing down your neck. And once you survive all that leveling up, the main event kicks off a brutal winner-takes-all duel that runs as a deadly goo poison match. The whole arena freezes in pure terror. Everyone knows what a goo match means, trapping the deadliest, most venomous things in a jar, until only the absolute peak monster survives. It is a brutal winner-takes-all deathmatch designed to forge the ultimate poison and the ultimate survivor. The Grand Elder breaks it down for the crowd. The original plan was to crown the next young clan leader through standard one-on-one cage matches. But thanks to the recent wave of bloody chaos, the roster is looking seriously empty. Sticking to the old rulebook would just invite more disasters, so they flipped the script. Now it is a no-holds-barred free-for-all, where everyone can go all out. The crowd absolutely loses it. Their glares lock onto Tung Yun Myung, blaming him entirely for this crazy twist. But the Elder instantly shuts down the whispers. He reminds everyone that the young clan leader seat is the lifeblood of the Tang family, and this is not some petty playground brawl. It is a sacred trial by fire. You risk your life, smash your limits, and the last one standing inherits the entire Sichuan Tang Empire. Fight, survive, conquer. That is their absolute law. The Elder's voice booms across the courtyard as he drops the names of the chosen participants, braving the Gu Prison Tang, Zhongriol Tang, Munchan Tang, Yongryong Tang, Sokshin Tang, Jukriyun, and Tang Yunmyong. Meanwhile, Yunmyong just smirks to himself. Honestly, this whole deadly trial feels like a total walk in the park. Cut to the dead of night deep inside the Sichuan province. We are at the main camp of the Dark Moon Sword Sect, hidden within Black Death Alliance territory. Shadows dance in a dimly lit war room. Mak Gyonhu stands before his top brass, giving a quick nod to their packed schedules, before demanding their absolute focus. He brings up the latest wild scheme cooking inside the Tang family walls. One executive chimes in, asking if he means the young clan leader clash. Another quickly adds that their spies already leaked the intel, that the games officially kicked off a few days back. Mak Gyonhu nods, explaining that the exact second the announcement dropped, every single Tang kid with a shot at the throne was packed into carriages and shipped out into the unknown. He points out that the Tang family is currently hanging by a thread. Their boss, Yu Giljun, could literally wipe them off the map whenever he feels like it. But Mak Gyonhu knows how the game is played. Yu Giljun is keeping them alive purely because they are still useful pawns. He locks eyes with his crew. It is painfully obvious that these kids are the sole future of the Tang clan. If they go down, the entire family crumbles with zero chance of recovery. The dark logic hits perfectly, and wicked grins spread across the executives' faces. Still, one cautious guy speaks up. Even on their last legs, the Tang family is not a joke. They are venomous and highly dangerous. He asks for the green light to attack, but Mak Gyonhu just leans back. For now, they sit tight and do absolutely nothing. Ambushing those carriages and wiping out the heirs right now would be child's play, but it would not deliver that soul-crushing impact. Why? Because this brutal succession war stretches out for a grueling 4 years. Mak Gyonhu paints a brutal picture. Imagine the pure, unadulterated despair if after pouring years of blood, sweat, and resources into these elite prodigies, they all get slaughtered right at the grand finale. So the master plan is simple. Shadow the carriages, see where they land, and drop the hammer exactly 4 years from now. One of the top executives smirks and drops a major update. The elite trackers are already glued to their tail. Plus, they have secretly planted a hidden ace, guaranteeing the Tang legacy falls right into their lap. Smash cut to Common Mountain, the official battleground for the succession war. The hardcore instructor stands front and center, glaring at the fresh meat. He barks out that even though the rules got flipped upside down, the hardcore schedule and deadly procedures have not budged an inch. From here on out, your name is dead. You are just a number. Everyone is split into 4-person squads. And our main crew, they are Squad 7. The instructor lays down the law with zero room for debate, then starts rattling off the roster. He shouts out the route roll call. Tang Yuri is 25, Tang Amirio is 26, and Tang Aijin locks in 27. But wait. Number 28, Tang Yunmyong, is nowhere to be seen. The instructor's strict facade cracks slightly, as his eyes dart around the treacherous terrain, finally spotting 28 trailing way behind the pack. He snaps at him, demanding to know why he is slacking off on day 1. But Yeonmyeong just gives a chill apology, brushing it off by saying he totally zoned out for a second. The instructor instantly loses his cool, barking that this is not the place for daydreaming and ordering him to keep up. Yeonmyeong clicks his tongue in sheer annoyance, secretly wondering how their so-called leader is completely blind to the danger, because Yeonmyeong-hee feels a heavy piercing gaze right on his back, knowing for a fact they are being hunted. Eventually, the squad hits a dead end at a massive cliff face, leaving Tang Yuri totally confused. She nervously asks the instructor if they took a wrong turn. But before he can even open his mouth, a deep, unnatural voice rumbles straight out of the solid rock, giving everyone massive goosebumps. It demands Squad 7 to drop the password. The recruits are absolutely frozen in shock. Without missing a beat, the instructor squares his shoulders and shouts, "Poison King of Hidden Poison." It is a wildly surreal trip, but the massive stone wall actually accepts the code, its deep voice echoing back with undeniable power. Stepping straight out of the solid cliff face, a guy introduces himself as Jigal Changshin. He welcomes the crew laying out his role as their official guide for the tournament. His voice drops smooth and steady, instantly putting everyone at ease. Changshin drops some heavy lore, revealing the Jiggle clan used to run the game as one of the 5 great families, right up there with the Sichuan Tang clan, reigning as undisputed masters of formations. But their glory days crashed and burned after the Heavenly Brilliance. Demon Lord absolutely wrecked their territory. If the Tang clan had not thrown them a lifeline, they would be history. Changshin keeps going, the trauma of his clan's past echoing in his tone. To pay off that massive debt, his family now acts as the ultimate bouncers, keeping unwanted guests out of this very tournament. Leading the squad deeper into the mystical cliffside matrix, he makes it crystal clear that his people are pulling all the strings behind the scenes, using their signature arts. With a flick of his wrist, he activates the spell. Blown away by the blinding flash of Changshin's magic, Tang Yuri clenches her fists hyped to finally witness the legendary Jiggle techniques up close. Tang Yig is totally starstruck, whispering how this dimension completely defies space and time. Meanwhile, Tang Miryo is side-eyeing Tang Yangmyeong, clocking that he is completely zoning out. A flashback hits her. He was pulling this exact same stunt in the carriage earlier, spiking her anxiety. Rewinding to their carriage ride to the cliffs, the proctor dropped a bombshell once they hit the drop zone. This squad would be glued together for 3 whole years, demanding quick introductions. Tang Yuri, practically vibrating with hype, leans in and asks if he is the infamous Tang Yangmyeong. Bouncing with chaotic energy, she drops her own name, introducing herself as Tang Yuri and admitting she is a massive fan. She casually spills that literally everyone in the arena is talking about his legendary brawl. Next up, Tang Yijun jumps into the chat, flashing a warm smile to the group. Putting on her sweetest voice, she tells Yangmyeong he is basically a celebrity now, low-key swooning over his raw reputation. She presses for the tea. Did he really brutalize Tang Yangryong like the rumors say? Yuri instantly piggybacks on the question, hyping up Yangmyeong's insane audacity, considering Yangryong's great-grandpa is literally one of the top 3 elders. She points out the harsh reality tournament immunity might cover his back for the next 4 years, but the second it ends, he is totally cooked. Annoyed, Yangmyeong snaps back, telling Yuri to chill, since the whole thing just morphed into a lethal goo poison deathmatch anyway, not his problem. Rattled, Yuri stammers about the crazy rule switch-up, throwing her hands up and swearing she is not trying to point fingers. Tang Miryo cuts in dryly, calling Yuri out for desperately wanting to start drama. Snapping back to reality, the squad reaches their destination and starts trekking. Miryo keeps glaring at Yangmyeong, mentally promising herself she will not let a single shady move of his slip under her radar. Smack. She walks right into the backs of the other girls, freezing as they all realize instructor Jiggle Changshin is nowhere to be found. Pure panic sets in. How does a guy just evaporate into thin air when he was literally leading the pack a second ago? Miryo drops a terrifying theory. Losing their way in this matrix could lock them inside a void forever. She even wonders if their guide accidentally glitched his own spell and trapped himself. Her anxiety spikes as she questions how they are ever supposed to escape this funhouse. Yuri nervously suggests holding their ground and praying for a rescue party. But out of nowhere, Miryo catches Yangmyeong casually strolling off into the void. She is absolutely baffled by his icy composure. What kind of crazy plan is cooking in his head? Cut to an entirely different dimension, Jiggle Changshin is walking alone, fully aware that the kids are probably losing their minds. Right about now, he knows the brutal truth: escaping the legendary Phantom Dome of 7 Castles is literally impossible without the Master Key. He silently roasts the Tang Elders for being petty enough to wipe out a whole squad, just to catch one stray kid. The Grand Elder himself personally contracted Changshin to erase participant number 28 from existence. Sure, it is a dirty political play, but pulling off this hit guarantees an ironclad alliance between the Jiggle and Tang factions. Deep down, Changshin hates it. The rigged nature of this entire blood sport leaves a bitter taste in his mouth. He knows this corrupt mindset will eventually rot the Tong clan from the inside out, despite their short-term power grabs. Still, a guy has to look out for his own bloodline, and playing the villain secures his family's future. Right in the middle of this guilt trip, the entire dimension violently shudders, followed by a sickening cracking noise. Whipping around to check his blind spot, his soul practically leaves his body. Participant number 28 is peering through a shattered hole in reality, flashing a demon-level smile. The old man shrieks in pure terror, his brain totally failing to process this glitch in the Matrix. Wearing an unhinged grin, Young Myung innocently asks why the master was sprinting away so fast. He plays it cool, claiming the rookies just could not match the old man's blinding pace through the maze. With a deadly mocking politeness, Young Myung tells him to watch his step next time and avoid ditching his students. Changshin chokes out a pathetic apology, admitting his little mistake. But inside, he is sweating bullets, staring at Young Myung like a ghost, while desperately trying to calculate how this monster tracked him down. Staring at a literally invisible wall, Mirio is utterly clueless. She demands to know how he pulled that off. Muyong just shrugs it off, claiming he casually sliced through the fabric of space itself. Agashi is left speechless, completely mind-blown, that he actually hacked a magical barrier. Snapping back to reality, Mirio shushes the squad. Freaking out over his insane cheat-like skills will have to wait. She reminds them they barely managed to track down Instructor Zhug. If they blink, this slippery guy might vanish into thin air again. But guess what? They look up, and the dude is already gone. Muyong just lets out a quiet breath, a smirk forming. He knew it. His instincts were dead on. Cut to Zhuge Changshin. He is sprinting for his life, silently screaming at his own pathetic state. A proud master of the Zhuge clan, fleeing from a bunch of kids inside his own trap. Pathetic. That kid's dead-eyed stare is practically burning into his brain. Cheap illusions. Yeah, those are not going to work on a monster like him. How the heck does a 12-year-old radiate that kind of killer aura after a frantic sprint through the maze? Changshin finally spots the exit, dumping out into the training grounds. He throws himself out of the barrier like a total coward, hitting the dirt and gasping for air. He actually thinks he is safe. In his mind, there is absolutely zero chance the boy can breach this level of defense. But his victory lap gets cut brutally short. A deep voice echoes from behind him. Standing right there is Tang Wanjin, the big boss overseeing group number 7. Eyeing the old man sweating buckets, Wanjin tilts his head. Where exactly are the trainees he is supposed to be guarding? When pressed for answers, Changshin quickly swallows his panic. He already cooked up a perfect lie for this exact moment. With a fake, sad sigh, he claims Group 7 is officially disqualified. He spun a sob story about waiting for hours, but they just ghosted him. He throws out wild theories saying maybe bandits jumped them or wild beasts tore them apart. He shrugs it off as a tragic, totally unavoidable accident of the wild. Because of that, the tournament just has to roll on without them. But the absolute second those words leave his mouth, the very fabric of reality behind him violently splinters. Changshin whips around, his blood running cold. His ultimate barrier should not be breaking apart like cheap glass. Wanjin instantly grips the hilt of his blade, demanding to know if enemies are breaching the perimeter. Throwing his arms up, Changshin blocks Wanjin. He stammers out that he needs to handle this himself. Suddenly, a sharp metallic ring pierces the air. Boom. The space right behind the old man explodes into glowing shards. He is totally frozen in terror. The legendary Zhug family trap, an absolute top-tier technique, just got completely obliterated. Nobody, and I mean literally nobody, has ever brute-forced the phantom dome of the 7 locks this fast. As the smoke clears, the deadpan face of participant number 28 stares right back at him. Changshin is shook. Stepping through the rift like an absolute boss, Muyong flashes a chilling, predatory smile. He sarcastically asks if the poor old master is doing okay. Mirio is absolutely floored. Watching Muyong tear through a masterclass illusion like it was paper is breaking her brain. What is even crazier, he ripped that dimensional tear using a rusty trash tier dagger. She is begging to know what kind of glitch he just exploited. Muyong casually drops the truth. He did not destroy the trap. He just carved a temporary doorway. He barks at the squad to move their feet, warning that the glitch will patch itself any second. But before they can flex any further, a harsh voice snaps their attention. It is the warden leveling his steel right at the kids and demanding to know if they belong to Group 7. Stepping up, Mirio asks who is asking. Muyong simply gestures toward the man's dark hood. Stitched right onto the fabric is the heavy, undeniable crest of the Tong clan. Dropping his guard, Wanjin breathes a sigh of relief. He admits he thought they were dead meat, just like the old instructor claimed. Seeing them alive totally flips the script. While Changshin looks like he is about to pass out from sheer panic, Muyong coolly steps in. He smoothly lies, saying they just took a wrong turn. And hey, leaving a little marker at the trap's entrance. That was the only reason they found their way out. Hearing this obvious cover-up, the girls finally connect the dots. This was not an accident. The old man tried to bury them on purpose. Muyong's eyes narrow. He knows this puppet is definitely taking orders from the Tang family higher-ups. But for now, he plays dumb. Let the enemy think they are safe until he gets hard proof. But mark his words, if this tournament ends and he finds out the Zhuge clan teamed up with the elders to backstab him, he is going to wipe their entire bloodline off the map. Shaking like a leaf, Changxin stutters out a pathetic apology and scurries away to inspect his wrecked magical dome. With the rat gone, Wang Jin steps up to the squad, officially welcoming them back to the grid. He drops a quick apology for their trash escort service, then formally drops his name. He is Tang Wanjin, a direct operative of the legendary Bangui Brigade. And guess what? He is their new drill sergeant for the entire tournament. Mirio's jaw practically hits the floor. The Bangui Brigade. That is the insanely lethal private army commanded by the former heir of the Tang clan. They vanished off the grid years ago. We are talking about an elite ghost squad where every single foot soldier packs the raw firepower of a high-tier guild master, cementing their status as the absolute most lethal Black Ops squad in the entire Tang clan. The pieces finally click. The former clan heir was actually Yeonmyeong's mom, the legendary Poison Phoenix. Realizing this, our boy straight up interrogates Wang Jin about why he got exiled from the main family. Wang Jin drops a massive lore bomb. Decades ago, his squad was locked in a brutal, blood-soaked war to defend their master, the Poison Phoenix herself, against the ridiculously overpowered Heaven's Brilliant Demon Lord. But they got completely rolled utterly, failing to keep their leader alive. Carrying that massive trauma, they practically branded themselves as traitors. Cutting the depressing backstory short, Wang Jin snaps back to reality and tells the rookies to lock in, as it is time to break down the rules of this savage survival game. Phase 1 is basically a year-long free roam. The recruits can grind however they want, scoring top-tier martial arts manuals, and elite mentoring if their stats are high enough. Yuri instantly starts daydreaming about the Tang clan's most broken ultimate skill, the 10,000 Heavenly Flower Rain. A mythic art completely wiped off the map during that catastrophic clash with the Demon Lord. She low-key wonders if they can unlock it during this trial. Catching on to the hype, Wang Jin reveals that this ultimate ability is the final prize reserved strictly for whoever claims the title of young clan leader. Sure, the blueprint is heavily fragmented, but the absolute core mechanics have been kept alive by the clan elders. Yeonmyeong's big brain immediately goes to work. He figures out this attack is essentially an area of effect storm of hidden blades practically mirroring advanced telekinetic sword control. He smirks, realizing he could probably bootleg the whole thing, without breaking a sweat. Wang Jin keeps talking, announcing that the elders will personally inject fragments of this legendary art into each competitor. He flat out admits he has zero clue if their bodies can even handle the crazy power scaling, but orders them to keep their eyes glued to the grind. Whether they squat up or go full solo lone wolf, the choice is totally theirs. The only thing that actually matters is raw, unfiltered dedication. Right on cue, Yuri raises a hand asking where the VIP dorms are at. Wang Jin verbally obliterates her hopes, stating they are roughing it in the wilderness. Cozy beds do not forge killers, and adapting to a literal death zone is their #1 priority right now. Flexing his grip, the instructor barks at the squad to scatter and begin their brutal training arc, however they see fit. But Yeonmyeong is not having it. He casually argues that sleeping in a bed is actually an ultra-mega W, claiming that hitting your macros and resting is scientifically crucial for a growing teenager, making this whole forest survival gig completely pointless. Wang Jin shoots him an absolutely murderous glare, leaving the rest of the crew shaking in their boots. The veteran immediately tags Yeonmyeong as the textbook definition of toxic arrogance. But if this kid is actually the anomaly who shattered the formation barrier earlier, it is definitely time for a vibe check to test his real stats. Sweating bullets, the other 3 recruits desperately try to muzzle Yeonmyeong before he digs his own grave. Cutting through the panic, Wang Jin drops a massive ultimatum. Pass a custom trial, and the kid scores VIP access to the luxury manor. Fail, and he is totally cooked. The challenge is brutally straightforward. A squad of elite shadow assassins will completely surround our protagonist and unleash a barrage of lethal projectiles. To catch the W, he just needs to parry or evade everything without moving more than 5 paces. Oh, and the timer starts the second he blindfolds himself, proving why he is an absolute gigachad. Yeonmyeong casually wraps the cloth over his eyes without complaining, while the tree-camping assassins stay terrifyingly motionless. A suffocating cinematic silence drops over the forest. Mirio nervously analyzes the delay, wondering why the ambushers are holding back, quickly realizing they are weaponizing the silence to heavily debuff his mental state. Without warning, the shadows erupt, unleashing 167 razor-sharp kunai, straight at his vital points. Moving with literal god-tier reflexes, our boy unsheathes his weapon and effortlessly swats away the apocalyptic rain of steel. This insane flex highlights a massive reality check in the Murim world. Combat is never just about memorizing flashy moves. It heavily relies on the raw physics of momentum, velocity, and split-second battle IQ. True Ascended combat requires mastering the invisible mechanics of fracturing, dispersing, binding, and executing absolute cutting power, because Yeonmyeong already unlocked max-level sword enlightenment during his previous incarnation. Treating this deadly ambush like a casual warm-up was basically child's play. But for the basic non-playable characters who only grinded physical reps without unlocking that spiritual tier, this visual is completely mind-melting. Wang Jin watches in utter disbelief as the kid neutralizes an entire squadron's payload with one singular fluid motion. But when he zooms in on the aftermath, his jaw drops. Yeonmyeong did not just swat the daggers away, he magnetically manipulated their trajectories. After casually deleting every single threat, the mad lad tugs off his blindfold and innocently asks if he scored a passing grade. Basically glitching out from shock, Wang Jin coughs awkwardly to hide his shattered ego and confirms the kid totally aced it, granting him full clearance to chill at the luxury estate. Before he can dip though, Tang Mirio sharply cuts in, guilt-tripping him about ditching the squad just to live like a king. Flashing a devious smirk, our protagonist ruthlessly flexes about how insane a 5-star gourmet dinner is going to taste, casually wondering out loud if the forest losers even get to eat tonight, heavily stacking the emotional damage. Literally fuming, Mirio screams at him to freeze right there, while the other two sidekicks desperately try to hold her back. Watching this hilarious chaotic energy unfold, a wave of relief hits Wang Jin, realizing that the insane skill gap actually fueled the team's competitive drive. Still deep down, the veteran knows this whole tournament is basically over before it even started. The tournament hasn't even kicked off yet. He already recognizes Yeonmyeong as the absolute legend destined to resurrect the fallen Sichuan Tang clan. Cut to our guy tossing a look over his shoulder, deadpan ordering his squad to make absolutely sure their plates are stacked with meat every single time. He preaches that they gotta fuel that massive glow-up phase. Their dinner reservation for tonight, a straight-up wolf pack. Hunkered down in a dark cave, Tang Yuri breathes a massive sigh of relief, thanking her lucky stars. Their homemade paralysis venom actually hit the mark. Aizen chimes in hyped that if they keep grinding this strat, they are completely golden. While tearing into their meal, Yuri hypes up Tong Yijin's insane poison crafting, while Yijin bounces the respect right back, calling Yuri's rainstorm technique straight fire. Zoning out, Tong Yuri lets the memory of their wild ride wash over her. She points out that it has been a brutal 4 months since day one, a time period totally consumed by non-stop running for their lives. Flashbacks hit her hard, throwing hands with a literal bear, scraping rock bottom, and literally chewing on grass roots just to not starve. The memory of their first successful takedown brings pure waterworks of joy. It was an absolute nightmare, but against all odds they carved out a safe haven. Mid-bite Aizen starts venting some serious toxic energy toward Yeonmyeong, totally convinced the dude is living his absolute best life in luxury right now. Just dropping his name makes Mirio instantly pop off, as she makes her absolute unfiltered disgust for the guy crystal clear. Yijin awkwardly mumbles that she was just wondering about him, but Mirio fiercely shuts that down, visibly triggered. She bets $0 that Yeonmyeong is just out there, touching grass, waiting in the shadows. Spitting pure venom, she promises that once he crawls back to the estate, karma is going to hit him like a freight train. Aizen plays devil's advocate, pointing out that if the guy kept grinding out his already god-tier skills since they last saw him, he has got to be an absolute menace by now. Suddenly, the vibe brutally shifts. Mirio clocks that their entire meat stash has vanished into thin air. Utterly clueless to the absolute danger she is in, Tang Yuri casually admits she inhaled the rest of it. Cue pure unadulterated rage from Mirio and Aizen. Instantly drawing their blades, they cast literal death shadows over Yuri's face, looking 100% ready to end her over a stolen dinner. Smash cut to the rugged Gangdong ranges locked deep inside the legendary Seven Locks Phantom Dome formation base. Our absolute Gigachad stands dead center in the training pit, totally boxed in by the elite killers of the Bonghui Brigade. Wang Jin barks the brutal order to strike. Zero hesitation, the fighters swarm him from every conceivable blind spot. Yeonmyeong does not even flinch casually, brushing off their heavy-hitting strikes like they are absolute nothing. Bodies drop, but the mob just keeps pouring in. Bobbing and weaving with insane drip, Yeonmyeong starts handing out ruthless counterattacks. Sensing the perfect window to debut his hidden arsenal, he locks his fingers around a lethal ring-style shuriken. Launching himself skyward, he unleashes the steel in one flawlessly smooth arc. The squad braces for impact, fully expecting a standard barrage, getting their guards up. Instead, the blades ricochet in totally unhinged patterns, shattering any chance of predicting their brutal flight paths. One dude yells that trying to block this chaotic storm is basically impossible, but the realization hits way too late, as the jagged steel violently bites into its targets. Through the absolute pandemonium, another fighter screams out of his mind. At the impossible velocity of the blades moving so incredibly fast, they are literally glitching out of human sight. Watching this absolute bloodbath from the sidelines, Wang Jin is losing his mind. He mutters that this has to be a glitch in the Matrix. watching Yang Myung casually wipe the floor with trained killers in literal seconds, all while flexing enough insane control to merely scratch their skin. Mind blown, Wang Jin wonders out loud if the kid seriously engineered this nightmare move from scratch. Pushing for answers, he interrogates Yang Myung, who hits him with a low-key shrug and totally owns it. Mind boggled by the sheer impossibility of dodging the attack, Wang Jin pays his ultimate respects, demanding to know the name of this absolute masterpiece. Without missing a beat, Yang Myung dubs it the Whirling Line Frenzy Dance. But Wang Jin catches a massive flaw, pointing out that spamming the Whirling Line Frenzy Dance should completely drain his internal energy pool, begging to know how he is even standing right now. Diving into some heavy lore, Wang Jin brings up a legendary vision manual he once tried to score, from a veteran fighter. The ancient text held two legendary arts, the Piercing Sky Eyes and the Current Flow Eyes. The old head had warned him to stick with Piercing Sky, flat out calling Current Flow a broken, unfinished mess that nobody could use. Radiating pure main character energy, Yang Myung completely shatters his reality by announcing he actually mastered the Current Flow Eyes. Absolutely paralyzed by this plot twist, Wang Jin's brain literally short-circuits. He desperately tries to comprehend. How on earth a teenager cracked an ancient, permanently broken code from the Tang bloodline? Yang Myung breaks it down. Sure, the core foundation was completely missing, but he instantly clocked it as a piece of an ascended god-tier martial art. By locking into this vision, he literally maps out the exact flight path in his brain, nailing pinpoint strikes while barely burning any stamina. Finally numb to the constant shocks, Wang Jin drops a heavy reality check. In exactly 2 months, his former squad is going to roll up and face this exact same brutal gauntlet. And the craziest part, he reveals those rookies have already started flexing some seriously heavy skills of their own. Even though he had a straight shot to the next trial, Yeon Myung hits the brakes to level up his squad. He knows this grind is exactly what his crew needs, and he's absolutely hyped to see their glow up. Striding away from the sparring arena, Wang Jin completely drops his previous stress over the kid's hardcore training routine. It just doesn't matter anymore. At the same time, our boy Yeon Myung gets deep in his feelings, flashing back to his past life, where his literal only friend was his master, the legendary Sword Ghost. But look at him now. Despite his dark history and crazy background, he's actually building real squad goals and tasting that sweet normal life. It hits him out of nowhere. He actually misses his crew and seriously wants to reunite. While he's caught up in these wholesome vibes, cut back to the gloomy cave, where the trio is roughing it. The mood is completely toxic, as Moryeon loses her absolute mind, screaming her lungs out at Tang Yuri
for zeroing out their entire food supply.
Flash forward 2 whole months, and the countdown is finally over for the surviving trainees to pull up on Yeon Myung at the main estate. Radiating pure boss energy, Moryeon looks back at their insane grind. Day 1, they were absolute trash-tier noobs, but today, they've officially unlocked a god-tier power level. Eyes practically glowing with rage, she swears on everything that the second she sees Yeon Myung, she's going to gleefully crack his skull wide open. Rocking a genuinely terrifying smirk, she daydreams about the ultimate finale of this whole tournament. Picturing the announcer screaming, "Tang Yeon Myung goes down. Team number 7 takes the crown." Fast forward, the squad finally rolls up to the massive estate, looking completely pissed off. Tang Moryeon aggressively demands that Tang Yeon Myung drag himself outside right this second, but gets hit with pure crickets. The mansion is ghost town quiet. Annoyed, Moryeon openly questions the dead silence, wondering if the dude actually chickened out and fled. Flexing her fists, she complains bitterly about missing her chance to cave his face in. The rage is totally contagious. But mid-rant, Moryeon suddenly realizes that it's literally just her and Yuri throwing a tantrum. So she whips her head around toward Hajun, chilling in the back. Her soul nearly leaves her body when she spots Tang Yeon Myung, casually chilling right beside him. Both of them freeze their jaws, straight up hitting the floor, without missing a beat. Yeon Myung smirks, claiming he was just playing hide-and-seek to jump-scare them, and casually asks about that whole head-splitting plot. Pure panic washes over their faces, as their brains short-circuit trying to figure out what just happened. Flashing a cocky grin, Yeon Myung calls Moryeon a little cutie just to mess with her. She looks absolutely paralyzed, completely buffering in real time. He totally leans into the bit, asking what's good and roasting them, by quoting their exact threats about cracking his skull like a walnut. With a wicked gleam in his eyes, he challenges them to flex the results of their brutal 6-month grind, or if he should just drop the first strike right now. Moryeon instantly folds. Sweating bullets, she aggressively backpedals, swearing on her life that it was all just a massive joke. Shaken by this crazy plot twist, her mind races, trying to figure out how he slipped past their radar. Surviving in the wild was supposed to make their senses razor sharp, leaving her to dread that the power gap between them is still astronomically huge. While overthinking her life choices, she suddenly realizes the dude had a major growth spurt, and his visuals definitely leveled up. Completely caught off guard by her own brain, she low-key panics, realizing she's catching massive feelings for him. but desperately blames it on being trapped in the woods with literal wild animals for months. Now, reunited with his squad, Yeonmyeong tells her to drop the sad girl act. He actually gives her props, admitting that her current power level is completely out of this world compared to her old self. But being the ultimate troll, he reminds her that she only looks weak right now because he's standing in the same room. Meanwhile, deep inside the VIP chamber, where the Jegal clan boomers hold their secret councils, Jegal Chung-shin finally steps into the room. One of the top officials nods his way, while another snarks that it's been a whole 6 months since they last spotted him. The legendary powerhouse himself, also known as Jeonju, claims his chair and immediately tells them to cut the filler since they are on the clock. He demands the council spill the tea on whether any of these rookies are actually worth the hype. One official steps up, dropping facts about candidate number 2, better known as Muryeon, whose stat boosts have completely eclipsed the rest of the pack. He breaks it down, claiming her insane progress isn't about some noble desire to survive. It's fueled entirely by pure, unadulterated hater energy directed at a specific target. She's literally weaponizing her own rage. Another elder cuts in, pointing out that if they are talking about actual top-tier threats, they absolutely cannot sleep on candidate number 10, who speedran the Elite Warrior trial in barely 1 month. While the boomers keep debating, Jegal Chung-shin zones out into his own mastermind thoughts. Sure, numbers 2 and 10 are definitely cracked, but stacked up against absolute freak of nature. Number 28, they look like basic NPCs. Wearing a deadly serious glare, Chung-shin runs through his mental notes on number 28. It was already completely mind-blowing that the kid managed to shatter his flawless trap formation. The real shocker came when he secretly watched 28 grinding later on. His jaw hit the floor, watching this supposed rookie pull off god-tier techniques that literal grandmasters could only dream of. But drafting number 28 into his squad is a massive red flag, especially since the kid definitely already sniffed out his shady villain plot. Catching Jegal's nervous sweating, one of the council geezers leans in, asking if he's losing his grip. Already spooked, the old man decides to keep his mouth totally shut about what's actually eating at him. Waving off the suspicion, he plays it cool, muttering some excuse about losing track of his squad. Pivoting hard, Jegal Chung-shin locks eyes with the room, announcing that participant number 2 has definitely caught his radar. He pitches a wild idea: snatch up number 2 and set her up with his absolute menace of a nephew. Since rumor has it this girl is rocking some serious facial scars, Chung-shin bets she's starved for affection and stupidly easy to manipulate. His master plan: carry this scarred kid all the way to the champion spot, crown her the Tang clan boss, slap a ring on her finger, and boom, the Jegal syndicate permanently leeches onto the Tang empire. The scheming head honcho doesn't stop there, laying out the rest of his toxic blueprint. This whole setup basically hands them a VIP pass to Puppet Master, the Tang family's internal drama. Once they dig their claws deep enough into their rivals' pockets, they'll just swallow the Tang clan whole. Dropping the mic, he reminds the council that this hostile takeover is exactly why they backed the tournament in the first place. With his villainous roadmap fully exposed, Chung-shin slams the gavel on the meeting, projecting absolute authority while his brain is already playing 4D chess. Stepping out into the hallway, his mind races with another shady side quest. He realizes number 28 is way too cracked to let die, plotting to bait the kid with pure vengeance. If that boy survives the bloodbath, Chung-shin plans to adopt him and dangle the Jegal throne right in front of his face. Talk about a massive tactical flex. Smash cut to the participants' dorms, where Muryeong is currently recovering from their absolute grind of a training arc. Even with her muscles screaming, she admits that passing out on a soft bed hits different. Glancing over at Tung Yuri, she asks if the chaotic duo Ajun and Yeonmyeong hit up the lab yet. Yuri spills the tea, saying Ajun literally kicked the lab doors down, foaming at the mouth and swearing a total bloodbath. Muryeong's eyes light up like a kid at Christmas, hyped because Ajun's toxic brewing skills are unmatched. Down in the lab, Ajun is flexing this god-tier bubbling toxic sludge she cooked up for Yeonmyeong, hyping it up as a guaranteed one-shot kill. But before she can finish her villain monologue, the crazy dude literally brings the bowl of lethal acid right to his lips, making Ajun screech at him to stop. While she's fully hyperventilating, Yeonmyeong deadass chugs the whole venomous concoction in one gulp. Ajun absolutely loses her mind, screaming that he's an actual psychopath with a death wish. She grabs his collar, violently shaking him and begging him to puke it up, terrified that his organs are already melting. Annoyed, Yeonmyeong just sprays the poison right into her face, demanding to know why she's rattling his brains out. Wiping his mouth, he roasts her brewing skills, calling the deadly toxin extremely mid. Utterly triggered, Ajun snaps, screaming that this exact batch could liquefy concrete, desperately wondering how this dude is casually breathing. Smirking like an absolute troll, Yeonmyeong drops the hardest truth bomb. Her poison is just trash. Offended to her core, Ajun wails at the ceiling, cursing his immortal vibes. Lurking outside, Moryung realizes their assassination plot is horribly flopping. Back inside, a desperate Ajin practically begs the guy to stop treating a bioweapon like a cheap energy drink, her voice cracking with pure stress. Ignoring her meltdown, Yang Myung just keeps downing the toxic sludge like it's sports water, not even breaking a sweat. Pacing the room, Ajun cries about draining her entire poison stash, completely mind-blown by his cheat code biology. She verbally malfunctions, asking if he's secretly invincible to everything toxic. Little does she know, our boy is having a main character epiphany. It's not simple immunity, he's hard carrying the Tang family's ultimate forbidden art, the poison refining madness. He philosophizes that anyone messing with venom usually ends up biting the dust themselves. But as the undisputed poison master, shouldn't he be able to command the toxicity running through his own veins? Exactly on script, the lethal venom doesn't kill him, it instantly converts into raw, crackling internal energy, stacking his buffs. Past a certain limit, swallowing acid is basically like chugging a premium health potion. But he grounds himself, remembering you can't unlock this god mode unless you spiritually understand poison, rather than just treating it like a gun. The problem: these basic tier poisons aren't even moving his XP bar anymore. He desperately needs the hardcore radioactive stuff now. Sighing, he mentally adds this to his massive laundry list of chores, blocking his dream of a quiet, lazy life. Though honestly, with his current stats, he knows he could fold the entire Elder Council right now if he felt like it. He knows straight up that the Black Death Alliance and that heavenly brilliant Demon Lord are massive walking red flags that could totally derail his entire game plan. Even though he does not have any actual beef with the Alliance itself, he cannot ignore their insane grip on the region, especially after they sliced Sichuan City right down the middle. He mentally visualizes the head honcho of the Alliance, a generational prodigy who literally wiped 3 of the 9 factions off the map. Yeon Myung admits that back in his prime, he would have completely wiped the floor with a dude like that, but right now, he is seriously lacking the stats. The heavy tone of his voice hints at the absolute bloodbath waiting for him down the line. If he ever wants that chill, peaceful lifestyle he is craving, he has to grind back to the god-tier power level of his past life. He starts wondering if his girl Ah-jin could whip up a toxic brew that hits way harder than the weak stuff they are working with right now. Right on cue, Ah-jin drops a bombshell, wishing she could craft the legendary 10 poisons of the Tang clan. Totally thrown off, our boy asks what she is even talking about. Ah-jin shoots him, the most judging side-eye entirely doubting his whole claim to the patriarchal bloodline. Like, how does a literal Tang descendant not know about their most iconic top-tier toxins? She breaks it down. These are the ultimate god-level concoctions handed down through generations, scaling up in sheer lethality with every single rank. The catch: most of those recipes have been totally wiped from history. The 10th and final brew is so ridiculously overpowered that even transcendent tier gods would catch a body from it. She mentions that the surviving formulas are strictly gatekept by the highest-ranking elders. Taking all this lore in, the gears in the head of Yeon Myung start turning. The fact that top-tier martial artists would instantly fold to this number 10 poison makes it the exact ultimate weapon he needs right now. He casually asks Ah-jin to just cook it up for him, but she, practically pulling her hair out, reminds him that the blueprint for the 10th brew is literally erased from existence. Yeon Myung sighs in pure defeat, groaning about what a massive letdown that is. After all, their current stash does absolutely nothing to his insane poison resistance. He cannot even feel a tickle. Cut away to trainee number 2, the lethal Tang Ryan. While literally being held by the throat, she whispers that the 10th poison is an absolute force of nature. It is heavily banned across the board because it is just too unhinged. Locking eyes with her attacker, she drops a chilling fact. There is zero chance he is walking away from what she just slipped him. Gasping for air and hacking up his lungs, the furious enemy screams at her, begging to know what she just did, as his throat literally catches on fire. Unbothered, Ryan steps up and dares him to talk trash about her face one more time. The guy tries to force out a sentence through pure agony, but before he can even make a move, his entire physical form collapses. The toxic energy totally devours him, melting him down to ash in a split second. Watching the horrific aftermath, Ryan stares at the smoking dust pile of her enemy, totally stunned by the god-tier weapon her grandfather secretly handed down to her. It finally clicks in her brain. This has to be the mythical 10th poison of the Tang clan. She whispers the realization out loud, completely mind-blown, but utterly locked in. Standing right in the middle of the carnage, her gaze sharpens with pure, unadulterated main character energy. Realizing the absolute peak of the family arsenal flips a switch inside her, pushing her drive to go absolutely feral with her training. She needs to shatter her limits and hit a totally new power ceiling. Running on pure spite, she swears on her life that she will never forget the trauma of today. She is going to weaponize that trauma and use it to absolutely obliterate Yeon Myung during the upcoming Goo Poison showdown. Flashback to Yeon Myung and the crew chilling in the courtyard. Instructor Wang Jin steps up to the mic, pointing out that an entire year has magically flown by since this hellish boot camp started. He gives them props for leveling up their combat skills and patching up their squishy weaknesses, but then drops the hammer. The tutorial phase is officially over. He declares it is time to crown a squad captain. Yuri and Mirio literally freeze in shock at the sudden news, but Wang Jin quickly backs up, explaining that this is just a placeholder gig for now. Fast forward to year 3 though, and they will need a permanent locked-in commander, because that leader has to frontline the squad in the goo poison match, a literal death game with 0 respawns. Wang Jin makes it crystal clear whoever is carrying the team in stats needs to be sitting in the big boss chair. Confused Yuri asks if the entire roster gets to pull up to the poison arena. Mirio chimes in, guessing it is probably a ranked-based system, low-key signaling that trainee 28, Yeonmyoung himself, is the obvious draft pick. Mijin totally backs this up, claiming he is not just the guy in charge, but basically the top seed for the whole event. Wang Jin goes full drill sergeant mode, snapping everyone back to reality that Yeonmyoung is only keeping the seat warm as a temp boss. He glares at the crowd, daring anyone to drop an objection against Yeonmyoung taking the crown. Silence fills the yard before Wang Jin orders our main character up to the front, handing over a highly suspicious wooden chest. Eyeing the loot, Yeonmyoung asks what is inside. The instructor smirks, revealing it is packing the ultimate power-up, the legendary Tang Clan elixir. He hypes up this legendary item, calling it the Heavenly Heart Pill, a top-tier elixir. Brewed from a 100-year-old ginseng root, this bad boy massively buffs your internal energy based on your current stats. Seeing this god-tier item tossed straight to Tang Yeonmyoung, the other 3 squad members totally lose their minds, dropping their jaws in pure shock. But hey, they get it. That is just the ultimate flex of becoming the squad captain. The Tang Clan is practically betting the house on this crew. While breaking down the details, Tang Wanjin secretly hypes himself up, completely banking on Yeonmyoung to carry the team. He firmly believes that popping this Heavenly Heart Pill will unlock a whole new level of power for our boy. But the second the lecture wraps up, Yeonmyoung just shrugs. He deadpan asks if there is anything else on the menu, straight up rejecting the elixir because he wants a totally different prize. That massive flex? Yeah, it instantly triggers the entire room. Everyone starts raging, screaming about how insanely rare this loot is. They tell him if he is going to just throw it away, he might as well pass the buff to one of them. Even Wanjin is internally screaming at this crazy disrespect, barely managing to keep his cool face on. Swallowing his pride, Wanjin asks what the kid actually wants. And then Yeonmyoung drops a bombshell, demanding some hardcore lethal venom. Not just any toxic garbage, he wants the absolute deadliest stash, specifically the legendary Tang Clan 10 poisons. The whole squad is utterly paralyzed by this wild demand. Cut to their dorm later on, where Yeonmyoung is casually flexing his brand new gear. Mirio spots the missing elixir and roasts him, asking if a bunch of metal is seriously all he managed to grab. Our guy just sighs, admitting the elders totally gatekept the 10 poisons, leaving him to settle for this massive weapon stash instead. Hearing this absolute fumble, Mirio gets super salty, loudly trash-talking him for dropping the legendary elixir and calling him a total clown. Yuri steps in to play the peacekeeper, telling everyone to just chill and respect their captain and his weird choices. Trying to kill the awkward vibes, Ajin jokes that the boomer elders are probably throwing a party over saving such an expensive pill. Smirking, Yeonmyoung drops the mic. He never actually gave the Heavenly Heart Pill back. Boom. Flashback to a couple of hours ago. While sealing up a wooden crate, Wanjin double-checks with our main character, asking if these weapons seriously make up for ditching the ultimate elixir. Yeonmyoung is secretly super bitter about missing out on the top-tier venom, but he figures this heavy artillery will do the trick for now. Wanjin shakes his head, thinking this kid is literally the only psycho on Earth who would pick poison over a power-up. He gives it one last shot, asking if there is anything else to add to the tab. Yeonmyoung waves him off, completely satisfied with his new arsenal. But then he casually asks Wanjin what exactly happens to that leftover pill now. Wanjin bluntly states, it is going straight back into the vault at the Medicine King Hall. Squinting at him, Wanjin asks if our boy is finally having some major buyer remorse. Instead of backing down, Yeonmyoung pitches a totally insane game plan. He proposes a bounty if the rest of his squad gangs up and actually manages to beat him, the temporary boss. They get to crown a brand new captain, and that winner walks away with the Heavenly Heart Pill as their ultimate trophy. Wanjin pauses quickly, realizing this chaotic bet is absolutely brilliant. It is the perfect bait to make the squad train like absolute demons. In his mind, anything that buffs the future generation of the Tang Clan is a rock-solid investment, so he instantly greenlights the crazy idea. Snapping back to the present, Yeonmyoung tells his crew it is open season. They can jump him anytime before the goo poison match kicks off, daring them to bring absolute hell if they want that pill. Hearing those rules, the vibe instantly shifts. Mirio gets this crazy glimmer in her eyes and hypes everyone up to grab their throwing stars immediately. Watching them plot his downfall, Yeonmyoung just smirks internally. He knows exactly what they are thinking, but he has zero plans of taking it easy on them. His endgame is simple: secure that young clan leader throne, and make sure every single one of his teammates eventually gets totally juiced up with their own heavenly heart pill. Almost immediately, a voice echoes from the hallway screaming out the name of Yeon Myung. The very first challenger has already entered the chat. Stepping out into the light, our boy looks absolutely vicious, ready to show them who the real alpha is. He rolls his eyes at the overhyped challenger, eager to just speedrun this beatdown. Boom, fast forward several months. The training yard is an absolute war zone, with the squad grinding non-stop and throwing hands every single day. Ajin is literally eating dirt, groaning in pure pain after getting wrecked yet again. Standing over her, Yeon Myung ruthlessly roasts her combat skills. He loudly points out her massive losing streak, while Mirio watches from the sidelines, genuinely wondering if this dude ever gets bored of carrying the whole lobby. Yuri just sighs heavily, fully admitting she waved the white flag against their insanely overpowered captain ages ago. Honestly though, Yuri confesses she is basically just here for the entertainment, totally enjoying the cocky smirk he gets every time he sweeps the floor with them. Right on cue, Yeon Myung flexes his dominance, asking Ajin if she is ready to rage quit as he confidently holds a hand out to pull her up. Staring them down, he loudly declares his ultimate goal: he is snatching that young clan leader title no matter what it takes. Dusting herself off, Ajin admits they have not even faced the rival squads yet, but she literally cannot picture anyone in the universe taking him down. Completely recognizing his god-tier stats, she playfully asks if he is going to ghost his original squad once he puts on that boss crown. Watching this wholesome yet chaotic scene from a distance, Tang Wanjin smiles, realizing these kids have leveled up insanely hard over the last year. With zero hesitation left, he officially crowns participant 28 as the undisputed squad captain. He then drops a heavy reminder: the real bloody goo poison match drops tomorrow, so they better gear up for absolute war. 3 whole years of grueling bone-crushing training have led them to this exact moment. Tang Wanjin looks back at the brutal grind, pointing out how rival squads crumbled as people straight up dropped out, or met a grim end just from failing. But looking at his own crew, he knows the hell they have been dragging themselves through hits completely different. Team 7 survived in one piece, leveling up so hard they now rival the legendary Baekgui squad, and he tells them to wear that massive flex like a badge of honor. He's drilled the horrors of the upcoming goo poison deathmatch into their heads countless times, but he lays down one last chilling warning. This isn't your standard sparring session where toxins are banned. Anything goes, and every lethal substance on Earth is fair game, except for those 10 restricted ones. He zeroes in on the pure insanity of this trial, making it crystal clear that fighters will unleash their most twisted life-ending tricks to survive. Ordering Yang Myung to go all out and show no mercy, Wonjin tosses him a heavy pouch stuffed with the exact lethal concoctions he asked for. Ajin steps in, locking eyes with him as she drops a heavy reality check. Just one microscopic drop of this stuff will put someone in the dirt forever. She breaks down the deadly science, explaining how that brutal eye poison only triggers upon direct contact with the pupils, before diving into the terrifying body-wrecking symptoms of the 9 sickness powder. Wrapping up the lethal crash course, Ajin makes him swear he'll clutch the victory, and he just smirks, radiating pure confidence. The dude goes a step further, boldly claiming that when the dust settles, the only people capable of leaving a scratch on him would be his own squad. Flashing a final fearless grin at his crew, he turns his back and strides straight into the swirling portal like an absolute boss. Cut to another shadowy corner of the mystical matrix where Yeon Myung stands frozen, exuding cold, lethal energy. Her eyes burn with an intense, unshakable focus, knowing the bloody goo poison clash she's been thirsting for is finally here. Hyping herself up, she knows she's totally locked in, clutching the 10 ultra-rare toxins her grandpa cooked up and banking on her mysterious new backup. A sly smirk creeps onto her face as she flexes her secret advantage, flashing back to a shady backroom deal she struck with Jagal Chongshin. That guy had straight up offered to rig the game for her, flexing the fact that the entire deathmatch arena was constructed using his clan's signature magic arrays. He promised her it would be a total cakewalk to hack the battlefield and spawn her into the most overpowered tactical spot. When she grilled him on his real agenda and demanded his price, Jagal didn't even try to sugarcoat his massive ambition. His crumbling Jagal clan was desperately clawing for a comeback, aiming to forge a mega alliance with the mighty Tang dynasty while keeping their own crown intact. Myung immediately called his bluff, asking if he was just using her as a disposable chess piece to hijack the Tang family internal politics. Dripping with suspicion, she hit him with a brutal ultimatum, asking what happens if she just crushes their little proposal right then and there. Without missing a beat, Jagal smoothly countered that, proving his loyalty and locking down her trust was the exact reason he showed up. He pushed her to name her ultimate price. Snapping back to reality, Myung's blood boils with renewed rage as she swallowed her pride and suffered in hell for 3 whole years just to taste this exact moment. She makes a silent blood-soaked vow that she's going to butcher young Myung and violently snatch back the future that was stolen from her. Deep within another cursed zone of the arena, a mysterious silhouette gripping a dripping crimson blade lets out a heavy sigh of absolute boredom. Glaring at the carnage, the unknown killer mutters that the competition is honestly turning out to be a massive letdown. So the Tang family's supposedly elite vanguard, an absolute joke. Looking back at the last 3 years, our boy realizes it was nothing but empty hype and completely wasted breath. After literally wiping the floor with every single instructor and challenger, he strolls right up to the heavy iron gates, sealing off the brutal goo poison match. He is practically begging the universe to throw him a real challenge inside, just itching to lock horns with a top-tier threat. Cut to a different zone where Yang Muyan posts up on a bleak hilltop. You can feel the bloodlust radiating off him as he smirks, calling it a picture-perfect day for a funeral. His killer instinct fully dialed in. Taking in the massive, sprawling death trap that is the arena, he shakes his head at the sheer scale of the place, figuring it is going to take a solid minute to actually bump into any fresh meat. But just as he settles into this massive martial arts playground, his danger radar goes absolutely crazy. Out of nowhere, he feels someone glaring literal daggers at the back of his neck, from way beyond the magic barrier's boundaries. The stalker, a highly calculated schemer, bottling up a lethal dose of rage, who instantly spots his target. Right on schedule, number 28 from the 7th Division has entered the chat. Gritting his teeth, the watcher complains that witnessing this kid's insane potential is just rubbing salt in the wound. But hey, the Juge clan made their bed. He locks in, vowing to erase number 28 from existence, before this kid can flip the script on them. But right as he is plotting the perfect murder, his blood runs cold. Yang Muyun is staring right back, locking eyes with him straight through the magical barrier. The silence is deafening as the tension spikes, completely shook by the glitch in the matrix. The creeper, who is actually the mastermind, Zhuge Changshen, is having a mental breakdown trying to figure out how a human gaze just punched through dozens of high-tier illusion traps. But before his brain can even process the impossible, the visual feed violently snaps. With a super casual flick of his wrist, Yang Muyun brushes off the creepy vibe, betting his life savings it is just the Zhuge rats pulling strings from the shadows. He flashes back to Tang Wanjian, dropping the ultimate golden rule: absolutely zero outside interference is tolerated inside the goo poison match. Yeah, right. He already knew those slimy Zhuge politicians had their dirty hands all over this tournament from day one, and now they are crashing the main event. Honestly, let them come. He dares them to try something stupid, hyper-focusing on the bloodbath ahead. He is absolutely refusing to let some crusty elites hijack his main character moment. Meanwhile, back in the control room, Zhuge Changshen is literally sweating bullets. Trying to wrap his head around the impossible, he panics over the fact that he was cloaked in multiple layers of elite stealth spells, yet Muyun still tagged him. If he hadn't ripped his magical true sight away at the last microsecond, the sheer spiritual pressure would have permanently blinded him. The terrifying reality of the situation violently clicks in his brain, pushing him to the edge of panic. Muyun's blade aura doesn't just cut flesh, it literally slices through the fabric of reality itself, striking right at the core of the magic. Changshen is completely shook to his core, admitting he hasn't witnessed this god-tier level of mastery in his entire miserable life. He forces himself to swallow his pride, acknowledging the kid as an absolute freak of nature. Panic sets in as he realizes this monster is way above their pay grade. If Muyun sniffs out their assassination plot, he won't just fight back, he will slaughter the entire clan. Knowing they just poked a sleeping dragon, Changshen makes a dark vow. He has to exterminate number 28 right now, regardless of the body count. Cut to the darkest corner of the battleground where things are pure nightmare fuel. A female competitor is fighting for her life, her entire body a canvas of crimson and deep bruises. Pure feral panic drives her forward as she sprints through the shadows, desperately questioning how she ended up in this torture chamber. Staring the Grim Reaper in the face was definitely not on her bingo card today, but the gruesome trauma of her last fight is glued to her brain, haunting her every waking second. With every single breathless footstep, terror suffocates her, violently draining away her last drops of sanity. But deep down in the absolute trenches of her despair, a primal spark ignites. She makes a snap decision the second she sees another soul. She is waving the white flag, totally hijacked by her basic survival instincts. Panic and misery cloud her mind as she desperately clings to the dream of making it out alive, heavily burdened by the thought of providing for her dirt-poor parents back home. But fate has a sick sense of humor. Out of the fog drops a towering juggernaut of a killer, instantly vaporizing any chance of a peaceful surrender. Zero negotiations. This psycho is only here to collect bodies, brutally crushing her fragile dreams of a clean getaway. Completely broken by the massive skill gap, she fully prepares to drop to her knees and beg the next breathing human she sees. Hanging onto the thinnest thread of luck, she prays to the heavens that the heavy hitters from the other squads are still kicking, absolutely desperate for a knight in shining armor to drop into this bloodbath. But her prayers are immediately silenced by pure evil. A notoriously savage competitor steps out of the shadows, literally dangling the severed heads of his latest victims like sick trophies. Yeah, whatever flimsy game plan she had just vanished. Her survival odds officially hit absolute zero against this walking executioner. The butcher smirks, tossing a sarcastic compliment at her crazy fast footwork, right before cornering her like a trapped rat. Trembling and completely traumatized by the gorefest, she hysterically begs for her life, screaming out and asking why they are butchering each other, when they both proudly wear the Tang family crest on their backs. But her crying means absolutely nothing to this cold-blooded monster. The executioner brutally rejects the whole shared bloodline nonsense without blinking. With one ruthless lightning-fast swing, he snuffs her out forever. Miles away from the slaughter, Yang Muyan stumbles upon an isolated cavern. Taking a deep breath of the dead silence, he smirks. 0 humans in sight. It is the exact vibe he needed. Total isolation, 0 chance of being interrupted. Sweeping the area with his senses, Yang Wuyong catches absolutely nothing on his radar, making this the perfect window to hit the transcendent realm. Dropping into a cross-legged stance, he hypes himself up. The timing is flawless. His physical vessel has finally leveled up enough to tank the brutal backlash of crossing the transcendent threshold. As the breakthrough kicks off, dense mana swirls violently in his core. He mentally runs through the checklist. Hitting this god-tier stage demands 2 massive prerequisites: absolute mental enlightenment, and an insane reserve of raw ki to blast open the yin and yang poison pathways. Thanks to his past life hack, the enlightenment part is already in the bag. Plus, his ki reserves have been skyrocketing from absorbing IGN's lethal toxins. The setup is basically flawless. Suddenly, a suffocating wave of heavy energy condenses around his body. He shatters the invisible dams blocking his yin and yang poison channels, unleashing all that stockpiled venom to weaponize his own madness. Boom. A shockwave of pure aura detonates from his core. Usually, this breakthrough is straight-up torture. We are talking bones, snapping and fusing back together on an agonizing loop, literally forging a brand new body from scratch. But since our boy has lived through this hell, before round 2 is basically a walk in the park. He totally pats himself on the back for aggressively detoxing his energy pathways beforehand. If he had left any gross buildup in his system during this shedding phase, things would have gotten incredibly messy. Moments later, the transcendent evolution wraps up. Stepping out of the shadows, Wuyong cringes, realizing he absolutely cannot pull up to a fight, reeking like a literal dumpster. Still feeling that godlike energy coursing through his veins, he smirks. Not too shabby. Flexing to see exactly what this upgraded hardware can do. He knows this is barely the tutorial stage, but the potential is massive. He points 2 fingers like a literal gun, ready to test drive his new stats. While zeroing in, he casually notes that keeping his physique spotless has always been his vibe way before this whole goo poison deathmatch even kicked off. Tucking his free hand behind his back, he feels out a few other crazy physical upgrades. Snapping out of his daydream, Wuyong locks his focus onto the target. A blinding halo of concentrated aura flares up right at his fingertips, projecting a suffocating pressure outward. With a casual flick of the wrist, he slashes his fingers through the air, painting glowing streaks of ki. The beam blitzes forward at blinding speed, obliterating the solid rock in a blinding flash and sending shrapnel raining everywhere. Wuyong just stands there, dropping his arm, totally floored by how ridiculously efficient his mana output has become. Dust settles as chunks of debris crash back down to earth. He pivots to check out the boulder, which now rocks a massive crater straight through the center. Grinning, he decides it is officially time to crash the main event. Cut to somewhere else, where Tang Jukun is chilling on a massive tree branch, casually balancing on his embedded sword blade. Trapped below him is Yong Jiol, looking completely wrecked. Jukun, yawning like he would rather be anywhere else, stares down and directly grills him about what he has even been doing for the last 3 years. He mocks him, asking if he actually showed up thinking he could claim the clan head title. Bleeding out at the base of the trunk with his arm sliced to ribbons, Zhang Jiol just glares in dead silence. Jukun snaps at him, annoyed by the mute act, and barks at him to use his words. He aggressively questions if the guy even bothered training, because his power level is an absolute joke. Zhang Jiol is screaming internally, wondering what kind of trash luck spawned him directly into this psycho's path out of everyone in the tournament. Thick blood pours freely from his battered skull and mouth, already starting to clot. Clamping his eyes shut in pure despair, he grinds his teeth. Flashing back to the rumors, Jukun is the Grand Elder's hand-picked orphan, basically raised as his own flesh-and-blood grandson. Worse, he is the Elder's star student, and the streets claim his strength is borderline monstrous. Dangle-kicking his legs off the branch like a bored kid, Jukun locks eyes with his prey. Zhang Jiol thought he could flip the script with a fast sneak attack, but he could not even brush the dust off Jukun's collar, before getting utterly bodied. Flashbacks hit hard, Jukun going psycho mode, dicing him up with blinding sword strikes, turning his arms and back into chopped meat, while painting the forest red. Swearing under his breath, he shoots a one-eyed glare up at the canopy. realizing with a heavy heart that this might actually be game over. Gripping his shredded shoulder to hold himself together, he beams absolute hatred at the guy. But out of nowhere, Yang Wuyong's face pops into his head. He literally questions his own sanity for thinking of that freak right now. A cracked grin spreads across Zhang Jiol's bloody face. He realizes that getting slaughtered by Jukun feels way less stressful than facing Wuyong's nightmare fuel. Jukun's brow twitches. He asks what is so funny when he is literal seconds from death, demanding to know if the loser is hiding a secret trump card. Maybe some hidden, desperate ultimate move. Zhang Jiol chuckles weakly, completely shutting down the theory as he tells the golden boy that he just remembered a monster way scarier than him. Jukun stares a hole through him, his face twisting with massive disrespect, scoffing that taking the silver medal in terror is extremely insulting. Drawing his blade, Jukun coldly promises to bump up his own horror rating. He leans in, asking Zhongho if he wants to hear a dark little secret. Zhongho just glares, lips sealed tight. Meanwhile, Tang Jukran casually rests his heavy blade against his shoulder. Smirking and tapping his chest, he drops the ultimate bombshell. He is straight up working undercover for the Black Death Alliance. Zhongho goes completely rigid, his brain short-circuiting from the absolute shock. After what feels like forever, a single word escapes his lips. What? Flashing a twisted grin, Jukran casually mentions that since Zhongho knows too much, his free trial of life just expired. He mocks him, asking if that makes sense. Pure panic and sheer terror flood Zhongho's widening eyes as Jukran steps closer. Since Zhongho is about to bite the dust anyway, Jukran decides to drop his actual name as a parting gift. He raises his massive blade high, ready to deliver the fatal strike. He proudly announces he belongs to the legendary Great Darkness Silent Sword Sect, and goes by the name Maik Ingduk. His free hand clamps down hard on Zhongho's shoulder, locking him firmly in place so he cannot dash. But right as he puts his back into the swing bam, his entire body locks up, completely paralyzed out of nowhere. Zhongho just stares blankly at the wild scene. Jukran, now absolutely raging, starts barking out demands, trying to figure out what the heck just happened. Dark, gooey liquid starts pouring from his eyes like demonic tears. He grinds his teeth together so hard they might crack. The terrifying realization hits him that his muscles are completely unresponsive. Then, the heavy crunch of footsteps echoes from behind. Enter our absolute unit of a main character, Tang Yangmyang. Strolling up like he owns the place, he casually mentions picking up some weird vibes and deciding to investigate the drama. Jukran is practically leaking that foul black substance from his face, staring off into the void. Meanwhile, Yang Myung locks onto a face he definitely remembers. Spotting Zhongho, he completely shifts the vibe, cheerfully greeting him and asking how he has been bouncing back. After that brutal beatdown they had last time, still completely dazed, Zhongho tilts his head up at his former rival. His brain working overtime trying to process the chaos and figure out why this guy is here. Cut to a flashback years ago, dead in the middle of the night. A young Maik Ingduk questions his dad about the insane plan to infiltrate the legendary Sichuan Tang family as a mole. His father nods, breaking it down. With his kid's insane natural talent, pulling off the homeless orphan act for a couple of days is all it takes to totally bait someone into adopting him. He hypes him up, explaining that in just a few short years, the powerful Tang clan will kick off the massive tournament for the next clan leader. No matter if they are main family or side branch, Maik Ingduk's job is to thin the herd by taking out any rising stars that cross his path. His dad promises that if he pulls this off and comes home victorious, the whole family will finally give him the massive respect he deserves. Those exact words echo through Maik Ingduk's mind right now as he bleeds out into the dirt. Chewing on his bottom lip, he zones out completely. It genuinely feels like pure acid is dissolving his insides. He locks his blurry vision onto Yang Myung's back, desperately trying to figure out what kind of twisted magic this guy hit him with. Back in the present, Zhongho slowly drags himself to his feet, gripping his busted shoulder tight. He stammers out, asking if he is really looking at Yang Myung. The boss just drops a blunt yes and narrows his eyes, joking if he needs to violently introduce Zhongho's face to the pavement again to jog his memory. Absolutely floored by this, Zhongho stumbles over his words, realizing it is genuinely him. Yang Myung casually points down at the crumpled mess that is Maik Ingduk, demanding to know if this clown just admitted to playing double agent. Zhongho vigorously nods, confirming the guy literally just bragged about it. Staring holes into the paralyzed spy, Yang Myung notes he definitely caught him, name-dropping the infamous Dark Moon Sword Sect. His brain clicks. Was this the exact same creep stalking him back at Gangdang Mountain? Regardless, Yang Myung prioritizes bagging the target over asking questions. With a simple flick of his wrist, he magnetically yanks a hidden needle straight out of the spy's neck, ripping a brutal scream from the guy. Catching sight of the wicked little dart, Zhongho instantly realizes it must be laced with some serious toxins. He is utterly baffled by what kind of crazy venom could paralyze a top-tier fighter so fast. Pivoting the conversation, Yang Myung asks if any other competitors are roaming around. Zhongho throws out the idea of healing the spy just enough to squeeze some answers out of him. Yang Myung pauses, running the mental math on the cure. Knowing they could interrogate him, but healing an assassin is basically handing him a loaded gun. Catching on to the massive risk, he shuts it down. The dude already sang like a canary about the Black Death Alliance, so his villain arc is pretty obvious, meaning there is 0 point in wasting the antidote on him. Down in the dirt, the paralyzed spy furiously grinds his teeth, basically radiating pure, unfiltered rage. While the spy pathetically tries to push up on his noodle arms, Jong-ho looks at our hero, pointing out his massive glow-up. Scratching his neck awkwardly, he admits they used to have some serious beef, though Young Myung acts like he couldn't care less. Jong-ho admits that if the boss still held a grudge, he would totally be the one eating dirt instead of the spy. Swallowing his pride, he drops into a deep bow, offering a totally genuine apology for all his past toxic behavior. Young Myung just stares him down, questioning why the guy is suddenly acting so dramatic. He tosses a hand up, gesturing for him to kill the formal routine instantly. Brushing it off entirely, he drops the mic, saying the past is history, so Jong-ho needs to stop stressing over old news. Hearing this, Jong-ho slowly lifts his head, admitting he cannot change history, but he needed to clear his conscience like a real man. A smirk creeps onto Young Myung's face as he lets out a relaxed sigh, telling him one last time that they are totally cool and the beef is officially squashed. Jong-ho's jaw basically hits the floor, completely starstruck by his former rival's sheer aura. Jong-jol freezes. His eyes widen at the creeping shadow up ahead, and he screams Young Myung's name in pure panic, shrieking for him to watch his back. Young Myung barely shifts his gaze, totally unbothered, while right behind his head, Maek Inguk launches himself into the air, his blade slicing down in a desperate arc. Spitting blood and fury, he roars that if he's going to hell, he's dragging our protagonist right down into the dirt with him. Dude seriously thinks he's the main character as he brings his sword down for the kill, but slices straight through thin air. It was just a lingering afterimage. Young Myung teleports directly behind him, whispering ice cold that he doesn't waste time on ghosts. Absolute Sigma move. He clamps a heavy hand onto Inguk's shoulder, chillingly advising him to drop the weapon, unless he wants his entire bloodline erased. Trembling like a leaf, Inguk stammers out a realization of just how demonic our boy truly is. His knees buckle, and he just collapses completely broken. Off to the side, Jong-jol is practically picking his jaw up off the floor. He can't wrap his head around how Young Myung is casually rolling over S-tier fighters like they're absolute fodder. But the craziest part, our guy literally just swatted away the ultimate secret art of the black and white sword school like it was a minor annoyance. Young Myung slowly turns, reminding Jong-geol that it's just the two of them left standing. The tension spikes as Jong-geol sweats over how this final showdown is going to play out. Knowing he'd get absolutely cooked, Jong-jol instantly waves the white flag, and our MC just nods. Just one tiny problem. Jong-jol looks around the massive illusion barrier and admits he's completely lost. Without skipping a beat, Young Myung literally flexes his aura and rips the magical dimension to shreds with his bare hands, barking at Jong-geol to get out while he still can. Absolute savage. In a blink, our protagonist ghosts the scene. Smash cut to the shadowy halls of the Dark Moon Sword Sect headquarters, where hundreds of elite warriors are grinding their blade work. At the center, the sect leader stares darkly at a lifeless parasite in his palm, the exact same bug planted inside Maek Inguk. A dead parasite means a dead son. The sect leader clenches his jaw, flashing back to how Inguk was just his hidden secret, born from a fling with a lowly maid. Yet that kid had way more raw potential than his actual pureblood heirs. When the main wife caught wind of this prodigy, she got paranoid and ordered over 12 separate assassination attempts. That's why he shipped the boy off to act as a sleeper agent inside the Tang family. The dead bug crumbles in his shaking grip. Guilt and furious rage consume him for being such a deadbeat dad. Ready to crash out, he swears bloody vengeance. He rallies his entire terrifying army, announcing a full-scale raid to wipe the Tang clan off the map. He issues a chilling death warrant. Absolutely nobody, repping the Tang crest, is making it off Mount Gangdang alive, turning the tournament grounds into a slaughterhouse. Back under the night sky, Young Myung pauses his instincts, screaming that this whole setup is completely rigged. He's been speedrunning this forest for 24 hours straight without bumping into a single player. The math just isn't mathing. There's no way this pocket dimension is actually this huge. The only logical answer, the admins are hacking the maze barriers to keep everyone separated. The puzzle pieces snap together. The only ones left standing have to be secretly partnered up with the corrupt Jagal Syndicate. He sees right through their entire master plan. With cold, glowing eyes, he promises to make the Jagal family pay in blood. Staring up at the digital-looking stars, our ruthless anti-hero finally lets his guard down, letting thoughts of his sweet mother lull him to sleep. But his nap gets rudely interrupted when Tung Ryan suddenly drops into the zone. Hilariously, she doesn't even realize who she's looking at. She had literally bribed the game masters to teleport her directly to a weakened Young Myung or the final boss. Staring at him, she's totally clueless. Still, she smirks low-key, sad she has to delete someone with such insane visuals. Without warning, she unleashes a lethal cloud of arsenic gas, triggering one of the legendary 10 plagues of her toxic clan. But before the smoke even clears, Yang Myung violently chokeslams her against a tree, demanding answers. "You're the rat working with the Jagals, aren't you?" he growls. Our absolute menace calls her out for camping in a safe zone, just waiting to third-party the final survivor like an absolute coward. Seeing his terrifying predator-like grin, the color drains from her face. She realizes he had baited her the entire time. Squeezing her throat tighter, Yang Myung gives her one chance to speak, if she values her pathetic life. Giving zero cares about the fact she's a girl we love, a gender equality king, he legitimately debates snapping her neck right there, because she's too paralyzed to squeak out a word. She's mentally screaming at herself for fumbling her dagger in sheer terror. Leaning in close, Yang Myung analyzes her terrified features and casually drops her full name. Ryon's mind completely short-circuits. How the hell does this monster know her? Going full villain mode, he chuckles darkly about how her trash personality hasn't changed a bit, casually threatening to permanently scramble her pretty face this time around. Cut to the Jagal clan operator staring at his monitor, sweating bullets as he realizes their flawless trap just imploded. He is horrified by how this glitch of a character is effortlessly stomping max-level bosses. He stammers out that they've awakened an absolute demon, who is speedrunning their uncrackable magic mazes like it's a tutorial. He remembers how their ultimate weapon, number 10, cleared the board, but even that guy got completely humbled by Yang Myung's insane aura. Now, the operator is biting his nails knowing Tong Ryan is about to get folded like laundry. If our boy walks out of that forest, the Jagal Syndicate is entirely finished. But just as despair kicks in, a massive surge of blinding energy flares up, tearing right through the magical barrier. It's the furious boss of the Dark Moon Sword Sect, crashing the server with an army of 300 bloodthirsty elite executioners. An army is storming Mount Gangdong, dead set on wiping the Tang family off the map forever. At the exact same time, parked right at the mountain's edge, with 300 heavily armed goons, the Cheonjin sect boss. Jung Yun Song questions Mak In-hoo. He basically asks, isn't going all out against a bunch of Tang family rookies doing way too much? Mak In-hoo nods, admitting that rolling up on the Tangs with an entire army looks like total overkill, but he breaks it down since Mount Gangdong is literally the Gangdong sect's home turf. They had to bring the heat. The Gangdong sect's raw power absolutely dwarfs the totally washed-up Tang clan, meaning a smaller crew, would have gotten completely smoked. He points out that by flexing this massive squad, the locals are definitely watching their every move. Plus, the second the Gangdong guys realize they aren't on the hit list, they will definitely just sit back and eat popcorn. Jung Yun Song totally buys this logic, but then brings up that undercover mole Mak In-hoo bragged about. Looking absolutely gutted, Mak In-hoo admits the op was a total bust. That spy was his absolute favorite, but he ended up catching a body during the mission. Out of nowhere, he cuts the pity party short, barking that they are out of time for small talk and need to roll out right this second. Meanwhile, a Jagal clan shadow is silently listening to every single word. Clocking Mak In-hoo's insane power level, the spy figures out that unless someone tipped him off, there is zero chance he could have tracked this location down. He instantly suspects a rat in their ranks. Either way, he knows he has to relay this intel to the Bongui Brigade as soon as possible so they can make a move. But then, a totally sinister light bulb goes off in his head. He could totally weaponize this army to assassinate Tang Yeonmyung, keeping his own clan's shady agenda completely under wraps. Cut to our absolute Gigachad currently dangling Yeomryang in the air by her throat. Finally realizing she is dealing with Tang Yeonmyung, she is mentally kicking herself for being so blind. Staring the Grim Reaper in the face, she knows her one and only cheat code to survive this is popping the fire dragon's poison. Sweating bullets, she scrambles to pull it out. But Tang Yeonmyung glances down at her dropped weapon, spotting some extremely sketchy gunk dripping off the edge. Thinking he is zoned out, Yeomryang tries to blindly splash the blazing poison right in his face, but our Chad effortlessly snatches it midair. He pries the deadly vial right out of her grip, and coldly demands a full explanation. Just eyeballing the wicked color, he instantly pieces together that it is the exact same toxic sludge coating her sword. He smirks at Yeomryang, warning her that if she keeps her mouth shut, they are going to have a very painful trip down memory lane. He tilts the glass fully ready to shove her own lethal cocktail down her throat. Right before the liquid hits her lips, she totally breaks, screaming that it is the legendary fire dragon's poison, one of the Tang clan's top 10 deadliest creations. Tang Yeonmyung eyes the glowing liquid like a VIP prize, casually thinking it looks as refreshing as a glass of vintage wine. He actually realizes that forcing her to chug it would have been a massive waste, literally like tossing pure gold into a dumpster. Yeomryang is straight up begging for her life now, but Tang Yeonmyung's eyes turn ice cold as he interrogates her about teaming up with the Jagal Syndicate. He makes a dead serious promise if she even blinks before answering. She is drinking the whole bottle. Terrified out of her mind, she spills every single secret, leaking their entire master plan and that sketchy marriage setup. processing the intel Tang Yonmyung clocks. Their real motive. The Jegal crew is just using this wedding as a power grab to buff their own ranks. While he is mentally playing chess on how to destroy the Jegal clan, he does the absolute unthinkable. He straight up chugs the lethal poison. Her jaw literally hits the floor, watching this absolute madman down one of the Tang family's ultimate unsurvivable toxins, like it is a sports drink. Suddenly, she bursts into maniacal laughter, 100% sure he just committed suicide. Seconds later, Tang Yunmyung's face starts glowing red hot, and Yeom Ryong starts flexing that she holds the one and only antidote. But her smug grin instantly evaporates when she realizes that despite swallowing a guaranteed death sentence, the dude's chokehold on her has not slipped a single millimeter. Without warning, Tang Yonmyung's skin cools down to normal, and he casually wipes his mouth, joking that the legendary poison just tasted like a shot of ghost pepper hot sauce. Yeom Ryong's brain short-circuits, knowing it is scientifically impossible to tank that stuff. The brew literally contains the raw blood of a mythic beast, where just a microscopic drop should wipe out an entire army. But before she can even finish her internal panic attack, Tang Yunmyung absolutely pile-drives her skull straight into the dirt, snapping her like a twig. Rest in pieces, girl. No one is writing a song about you. Riding the insane energy buzz from the toxin, Tang Yunmyung feels an explosive surge inside him, realizing he just fully unlocked the legendary martial art of the sun. Just as he turns to walk away, he looks up and spots a blazing sun hanging in the sky, even though it is dead in the middle of the night. In a flash, reality starts warping around him, and our boy gets teleported into some trippy alternate dimension, immediately pegging this as the Jegal clan's dirty illusion magic. Expanding his aura, he scans the zone and picks up the heartbeats of over 300 hidden enemies. Doing the math, he instantly knows the Jegal family is pulling something insanely shady. He starts wondering, did the Jegal scouts seriously miss an entire battalion camping out here, or did they deliberately lure this massive mob right into the illusion trap for a massive bloodbath? Honestly though, Tang Yunmyung just smirks, taking it as an absolute win that free practice dummies just spawned in his lobby. Cracking his knuckles, he whips out his throwing needles and dunks them straight into Ajun's custom lethal brew, totally locked in for the ultimate boss fight. Back at base, Giggle Clown drops a massive bombshell on Wang Jin. Their perimeter has been breached, and a rat in their ranks just leaked their exact coordinates. A massive strike force of over 300 soldiers just rolled up, spearheaded by the notorious Dark Moon boss Mak Inho. Wang Jin is completely mind-blown. What on earth is this crew doing out here in Sichuan? And more importantly, how did they bypass the radar? Their hideout is literally cloaked by the legendary 7-lock phantom formation. Realizing the danger, Wang Jin orders an immediate mobilization, but the String Bean Clown shuts that down fast. Mak Inho and his elite squad already breached the inner dimension right where the deadly goo poison trial is going down, and since they intentionally sealed that zone off to prevent outside interference, they are totally locked out. The fate of the trial now rests entirely on the shoulders of the rookies. Cut to Yang Myung. Our boy is putting in absolute work, casually wiping out hundreds of enemies with a lethal barrage of toxic needles. Not far away, Mak Inho discovers his son's lifeless body and absolutely crumbles. Adding fuel to the fire, Jung Yun Song reports that their insider was just zeroed out. The mole got dropped by a single venomous strike before he could even twitch. An absolute one-sided massacre. This sends Mak Inho completely off the deep end. The same hypocrite who preaches about honor while plotting to wipe out an entire bloodline is now throwing a massive temper tantrum. Foaming at the mouth, he commands his troops to tear the place apart and hunt down those Tang clan pests. As the squads scatter, he screams that nobody leaves this mountain breathing. Behind his back, his own men are side-eyeing him, totally weirded out by his unhinged energy. They already know the Tang Syndicate is not something to play with, especially after seeing their informant get instantly deleted. And right on cue, mid-conversation, one of the grunts drops dead, sniped by that exact same venomous hardware. Panic sets in. Weapons get drawn. But when they look up, a terrifying literal storm of toxic steel is raining down completely, melting the entire squad in seconds. Up above, Yang Myung flexes hard, realizing his single palm blazing poison art is an absolute cheat code against these low-level enemies. Channeling his pure aura, he magnetically snatches every single needle right back into his grip. A terrified scout rushes back to Mak Inho. The update. Every single hit squad just got completely erased without putting up a fight. More runners flood in with the exact same horror story. Mak Inho starts sweating bullets as his army's head count drops straight off a cliff. Jung Yun Song crunches the numbers and delivers the grim reality. They just bled out over 100 soldiers in less than 60 minutes. He breaks down the logistics, completely convinced that a slaughter of this magnitude could never be pulled off by just one guy. Mak Inho is literally shaking so hard he wets himself, absolutely terrified that some legendary grandmaster from the Tang family is hunting them. His inner circle begs him to pass the baton to his right-hand man, seeing as he is stubbornly gearing up to crash out on the front lines himself. Jung Yun Song checks the clock. Sundown is hitting in an hour or two. If they do not smoke out the phantom killer by dusk, they are all catching caskets. Realizing they are just sitting ducks out here, he barks out a strict mandate: pack it up, they are withdrawing in 60 minutes flat. But the universe has other plans. Perched quietly in the branches right above them is our boy Young Myung, chilling like an apex predator. Young Yunsong is absolutely gagged. He did not feel a single drop of killer intent until Young Myung opened his mouth. He screams for his squad to scatter, but spins around to find nothing but fresh corpses. Touching ground silently, Young Myung casually asks if he is the head honcho. Even with his guard fully up, Yunsong could not track the kid's movements at all. Still, pride takes over. The commander sizes him up and immediately writes Young Myung off as way too young to be a top-tier threat. Completely unbothered, Young Myung flares his key to retrieve his deadly arsenal. Yunsong glares, trying to reverse engineer the insane physics behind that move. He rationalizes that spamming an area of effect skill like that must have totally drained the kid's energy pool. Sure, he admits the boy is dangerous, but Yunsong thinks he has the upper hand. Young Myung, however, could literally not care less. He looks Yunsong dead in the eyes and drops the coldest line: flex. Whatever technique you want, your subscription to life ends today. Triggered, Yunsong activates his ultimate aura. Bro buffs up looking like a bootleg Super Saiyan 4 ripping through the air straight for our main character. But plot twist, Young Myung tanks the supercharged blitz with a single lazy palm. He smirks, asking if that was supposed to tickle, causing Yunsong to completely short-circuit. Cue the villain backstory. Back in the day, the notorious Black Death Alliance absolutely wiped the floor with one of the legendary 9 factions. Chasing clout and infinite power, Yunsong sold his soul and jumped right on their bandwagon. As a massive payout, the Supreme Boss leveled up Yunsong's signature move. The basic peach-shaking palm evolved into the catastrophic Heaven Quake palm. That upgrade practically gave him god-tier striking damage. Fast forward to now, and Yunsong's brain is literally breaking as a random teenager swats away his ultimate finisher. What he does not realize is the insane juice Young Myung swallowed earlier, the pure fire dragon venom. When pushed to the absolute limit, that venom mimics the lethality of high-level sword aura. You know how raw sword energy locked with pure killer intent manifests into an unstoppable physical force. Same exact logic here. Pure toxic aura fused with the burning desire to melt anything in its path ascends into an absolute nightmare, venomous force. In real time, the unstoppable Heaven Quake palm literally crumbles to dust. Hellfire violently erupts around Yunsong, incinerating the warrior into ash before he can even scream. Staring at the scorched earth, Young Myung officially dubs his broken new buff the Fiery Venom Force. Then our absolute Chad pivots back to the traumatized survivors coldly asking who wants to catch the next flight to the afterlife. Just as the hype peaks, Mach Inho dramatically crashes the party. Talking a massive game, this guy hypes up his crew, barking orders to form a tight circle around Young Myung for the ultimate boss fight. The old geezer Mach Inho vows bloody vengeance for his fallen goons. But honestly, getting boxed in by a mob just sparks a flashback for Myung. It snaps him right back to his hardcore training days with the Bongo Brigade. He used that wild, whirling chaos dance last time, so he figures it is time to switch things up. In a blink, Myung completely evaporates. Suddenly, heads are literally rolling across the dirt. Inho is absolutely clueless, his eyes desperately darting around to track the ghost. Blinded by rage, the surviving disciples rush our boy, but he effortlessly shatters their blades mid-swing. Catching the jagged metal fragments in the air, he channels his explosive chi into them, pulling off the legendary 10,000 Heavenly Flower Rain. It is this mesmerizing, glittering storm of absolute carnage that shreds through the mob with terrifying accuracy. The whole battlefield instantly devolves into a total bloodbath. Inho stands there, frozen, his jaw dropping as the sheer terrifying scale of Myung's power finally clicks. Our guy casually strolls through the massacre, while bodies drop like flies around him. He admits it is a downgraded version of the original, casually dubbing this twisted masterpiece the Iron Shard Volley. With the grunt work handled and everyone flatlining, Myung locks eyes with the old man, sarcastically asking if sending out literal cannon fodder to drain his stamina was the master plan. Your turn to step up, old-timer, he mocks. Snapping back, Inho spits out that the kid is an arrogant brat, vowing to break that cocky attitude in half. Drawing his twin blades, Inho frantically tries to hype himself up internally, desperately whispering that a kid's lucky streak is nothing to sweat over. He starts barking at Myung, bragging that combining his elite Taiyu twin sword and the legendary silent sword styles, personally gifted by the Supreme Union boss, will absolutely pulverize him into dirt. Myung does not even flinch, just throwing pure disrespect right back. Pointing out the old man sounds like a broken NPC record, he pushes Inho over the edge. Screaming for him to shut his mouth, the elder lunges forward for the kill. Roaring that this is the end, Inho unloads his ultimate flashiest combo, Myung. He literally yawns, swatting away the heavy strikes like they are annoying mosquitoes. Shoving the elder backward, the kid leaves, Inho totally mind blown. Spitting mad and panting, the old man demands to know how a dinky little short sword just casually parried his god-tier Taiyu and silent dual strikes. Dripping with sarcasm, Muyang smirks, hinting that he knows a thing or two about swinging a blade. He roasts the elder, claiming it took him zero effort to read the basic rhythm and sloppy tension of those attacks. To pour salt in the wound, Muyang flawlessly mimics the silent sword stance himself, his blade erupting with this heavy, suffocating black aura. He locks eyes with Inho, asking if this is the proper way to flex the move. Staring at his own signature attack being hijacked, Inho is straight up malfunctioning, his brain short-circuiting as he tries to process how this kid is spamming a top-tier secret art without breaking a sweat. Muyang rubs it in, casually dropping that the so-called ultimate technique is actually pretty basic. Hearing this shatters Inho's reality. While our boy just flashes a wicked grin, the elder is practically spiraling. The insane disrespect of watching Muyang treat a legendary skill that cost Inho decades of blood, sweat, and tears like absolute trash completely mentally breaks him. Everything he knew about martial arts is crumbling into dust. Standing there with that smug, untouchable smirk, Muyang is radiating pure, unadulterated boss energy. The panic really starts to set in when the old man connects the dots, realizing that his absolute peak, his crowning life achievement, is nothing but a warm-up drill to Muyang. And as the kid starts casually explaining the deep hidden secrets behind the Black Death Alliance and exposing exactly how toxic their leader really is, Inho's shock rapidly morphs into freezing bone-deep terror. Getting hit with Muyang's massive brain power on top of his godlike combat stats leaves the elder choking on a massive wave of dread. He finally understands the absolute monster standing in front of him. But right as he is drowning in this nightmare, Muyang's heavy sigh of disappointment slices through the tension, completely gutting whatever tiny shred of fighting spirit the old man had left. The massive gap between his try-hard lifelong training and the kid's effortless flex has Inho spiraling out of control, his massive ego instantly shattering against the harsh reality that he is outclassed in every way. Muyang goes for the emotional kill, savagely joking that Ryonju clearly saw Inho as totally worthless to only teach him the beginner-tier garbage. Seeing the old man's shattered pride, our boy decides to put on a show and reveal what that technique is actually supposed to look like. Flooding his tiny dagger with an ocean of chi, the weapon wildly mutates, stretching and warping into this crazy fluid shape right before their eyes. It is straight up cinematic, leaving Inho glued to the spot, his brain entirely unable to comprehend the absolute mastery unfolding in front of him. When Muyang finally drops the Blade River technique, the visual is insanely breathtaking. The raw, unfiltered pressure literally rips through the atmosphere, bending reality itself with chaotic energy. Watching this go down, Inho is trapped between being hypnotized and wanting to throw up from fear, entirely unable to process how a flesh-and-blood human is casually throwing around god-tier destruction. After that mind-bending flex, the elder is just crushed by an agonizing wave of total inadequacy. The way the kid juggles that much catastrophic energy without a drop of sweat proves he has officially broken past human limits, basically confirming he has reached that mythical, impossible, transcendent level. As the suffocating weight of Muyang's true strength hits him, the old master is brutally put in his place, his massive ego completely vaporized by the presence of a true apex predator. Terrified and completely out of options against this absolute monster of an opponent, Mach Inhu realizes his only play left is to bolt. Reading the guy's mind like an open book, Tang Yunmyang just watches him literally morph into a rat and sprint for the hills. Chuckling at the sheer desperation, Yunmyang calls out that running is totally pointless. Watching the little rodent scurry, he debates, unleashing a legendary Tang clan technique. Meanwhile, the panicked rat is absolutely losing his mind, wondering how some young kid from a washed-up family managed to hit the ultimate transcendent stage. Suddenly, Yunmyang's spinning blades zero in like heat-seeking missiles, ruthlessly hunting down the scampering rat across the dirt. He desperately swings his sword to deflect the barrage, but a swarm of steel quickly traps him. He barely holds his own for a split second, before the onslaught shreds his defenses. Bleeding and frantic, Mach Inhu gets an arm cleanly lopped off, clinging to the pathetic hope that Yunmyang just burned through all his stamina pulling off this crazy move. But then the goat himself steps into the fray. Yunmyang pumps his raw chi straight into the floating weapons, making them buzz with terrifying lethal energy. Mach Inhu freezes in pure horror, right before the metallic storm engulfs him, slicing him into literal ribbons. Smirking at the flawless victory after testing out his new moves, our guy confirms there is not a single heartbeat left on the battlefield and preps to bounce. Always thinking ahead, the absolute Gigachad realizes he has some major scores to settle on the outside, so he casually channels a massive surge of mana right into his sword. He loudly vows that the corrupt elders who bullied his mom, plus the snake like Jegal family trying to steal his clan, are about to face brutal karma. He promises pure payback, an eye for an eye style. Then, with one slick flick of his wrist, Tang Yonmyong literally tears a hole in the magical barrier, a flex he absolutely never gets tired of. Cut to the outside, where Jegal Guan is still feeding lies to the crowd, yapping about how they locked the arena to keep the tournament completely fair. Honestly though, everyone sees right through his massive cap. The reality. This shady mastermind can stroll into that barrier whenever he feels like it. He just locked the doors on purpose, guaranteeing a total bloodbath so he could permanently delete participant number 28 from the server. Smug as ever, Jegal Guan thinks about how his perimeter guards already interrogated the stragglers, perfectly confirming the hit squad waiting inside. He packed the arena with the Great Darkness, the Silent Sword Sect, the Dark Moon Sword Sect, and 300 highly trained assassins. In his mind, there is zero chance Yeonmyung survives that kind of overpowered mob. But right in the middle of his villain monologue, the dude realizes the crowd is suddenly cheering their lungs out. Whipping around, he locks eyes with a very much alive Tang Yeonmyung, glaring a hole through his soul. The squad immediately sprints over to tackle-hug their boy, hyped that he does not have a single scratch. Flashing a confident grin, Yeonmyung reminds his crew that he already promised nobody in that arena possessed the stats to actually lay a finger on him. He shoots a deadpan look back at a pale Jegal Guan, whose brain is totally short-circuiting over how this kid is breathing, internally screaming while wondering if his elite army of 300 goons were just absolute trash. Sweating under Yeonmyung's killer stare, the cowardly snake snaps his folding fan open to hide his panic. Even Tang Jungjal rolls up to pay his respects, earning a cocky little smirk from our hero. Behind the scenes of this hyped reunion, Jegal Guan is literally spiraling, completely unable to process the glitch in reality he just witnessed. Tang Yeonmyung actually shattered the Jegal clan's legendary 7-layer ultimate defense like it was nothing. Top-tier grandmasters would normally wet their pants looking at that magic wall, but this crazy kid carved right through the barrier, like a hot knife through butter. Massive red flags start popping up in Jegal Guan's head as he digests what this raw power actually means. Terrified by the insane possibility that the Tang clan heir might have broken past the absolute ceiling of any veteran martial artist alive. Catching the vibe that he needs to play the long game, Yeonmyung holds back from just throwing hands with Jegal Guan right then and there. He knows securing his alpha status in his own family matters way more right now. Locked in and cold as ice, he puts the side quests on pause, deciding to brutally humble the corrupt Tang elders before mopping up whatever trash the Jegal family brings to the table. But before our main character can even drop the lore about what went down inside the arena, a massive earthquake rips through the courtyard, violently shaking the core foundations of the magical arena right beneath their sneakers. The invisible walls, keeping the battle zone locked away from the public, completely shatter like glass, dropping the curtain on the most brutal, jaw-dropping murder scene imaginable. The dust settles to reveal an absolute graveyard. Hundreds of wiped-out elite assassins are just painted across the dirt, tossed aside like broken NPCs in a boss fight. Staring down into the bloody crater, an incredibly heavy silence drops over the entire audience. Their jaws hit the floor, eyes bulging in pure, unfiltered shock, realizing that this solo-leveling madman, just 1v300, an entire army of elite killers without breaking a sweat. The spectators are absolutely paralyzed by the hype. It is a total masterpiece of destruction. Even hardcore veterans like Wang Jin are left shivering, completely bowing down to the god-tier aura of Tang Yeonmyung. Taking down over 30 dudes at once, that's supposed to be an absolute nightmare, even for the most goated martial artists. But Yeonmyung, he's out here treating these guys like actual NPCs, swatting them away with borderline freakish ease. Seeing a supposed top-tier expert like Ma Kin-hoo scurrying away like a terrified rat just sends Won Jin's respect for our boy straight through the roof, proving that the new clan head is completely built different. The peanut gallery is absolutely losing their minds right now. Their jaw-dropping hype literally mirrors a screaming crowd, watching their favorite rock star absolutely shred on stage. Right in the middle of this massive flex, Yeonmyung brushes the dust off his shoulder and hits Won Jin with the most casual drop, claiming these bozos were basically light work. But listen, Won Jin isn't blind. His razor-sharp instincts immediately clock the terrifying gap in power, realizing this guy isn't just a standard boss, he's an anomaly. As panicked whispers of his god-tier wipeout ripple through the surviving fighters, the rumor mill goes totally crazy. People are dead-ass betting that he's shattered the ceiling of martial arts entirely. We're talking about unlocking a mythical tier that straight-up breaks the game's code. Meanwhile, Yu-Ri and the squad are practically glowing, flexing so hard over their guy's masterclass in raw, unfiltered dominance. But then there's Muncheon. He's lurking in the shadows, his face scrunched up in maximum hater mode, boiling over with pure, unadulterated salt at the unfairness of it all. He can't stop obsessing over the insane gap between his own trash-tier luck and Yeonmyung, skyrocketing to the top. From his twisted point of view, he got nerfed into the ground, while Yeonmyung secured the ultimate buff. It's a stinging slap to his ego. Flashing back to their old beef. Mun Xian vividly remembers treating this dude like actual dirt, a total zero who couldn't even lace his boots in a fight. His brain is completely short-circuiting, trying to match that loser memory with the absolute raid boss standing right there. He's internally screaming, baffled as to how a bottom feeder snagged such cracked abilities. Just before the tension completely snaps, Wonjin slides to the front. His heavy aura instantly shuts everyone up. Dropping the mic with dead serious energy, he makes the call that the bloodbath is officially over, crowning Yeonmyung the undisputed champ. To keep things totally legit, Wonjin basically tells the crowd to speak up now or forever hold their peace. This hard drops the curtain on the tournament and kicks off a brand new ruthless era with Yeonmyung sitting on the throne. Meanwhile, Muncheon is clutching his shattered hand, absolutely mauling. He swallows his pride, deciding to lay low and plot his ultimate comeback arc for later. Now that our boy is officially draped in the winner's glory, the surviving challengers pack in tight around him, hard launching a massive reboot for the Tang clan, totally stacked with fresh hype and killer resolve. Wonjin is looking at this like the ultimate patch update, a golden ticket to revive the dead clan, using Yeonmyung's insane carry potential. Flanked by 82 absolute units from the Bongwi Brigade, Wonjin drops to one knee. The whole squad bows down, swearing their blood oaths, and locking him in as the undisputed top dog. Over on the sidelines, Mi Ryo and Yuri are low-key panicking over the vibes, stressing over whether they need to start dropping formal my lord titles, now that their friend is the CEO. On the flip side, Wonjin is absolutely mind-blown by the sheer stat pool this kid has locked down so early in the game. He's hyped beyond belief, betting everything that the Tang clan will completely dominate the Sichuan server once again. As our absolute Giga Chad slides right into his boss phase, he doesn't miss a single beat. He's practically reading the minds and hungry ambitions of his new crew. Dripping with main character energy, he locks eyes with them and hits them with straight facts, vowing to speedrun their goals into reality. All he demands, trust the process, sit tight and let him cook. He effortlessly injects massive levels of hype into the crowd, leaving them shaking with excitement for this new tyrannical, yet awesome reign. When those words finally register, the warriors are completely gagged. Their brains are buffering, totally spooked by how this dude literally hacked their innermost thoughts. Right then and there, the sheer gravity of his flex hits them right in the chest. It completely cements his status as the alpha of the clan, sparking a level of ride-or-die loyalty that money can't buy. Fueled by his ice-cold leadership, the troops square their shoulders, totally fired up, and primed to follow him straight into hell if he asked. Locked, loaded, and vibrating with new purpose, they sell their souls to Yeonmyung's master plan. Without missing a beat, our boy snaps his fingers and drops his very first directive, ordering the entire mob to crash the main estate. But watch out, while the rest of the clan is throwing a massive celebration. Muncheon is practically foaming at the mouth. He's choking on his own toxic rage, sick to his stomach, watching Yeonmyung glitch straight to the top. As the dust settles and the crew rolls out, this massive hater swears to drag our MC down, even if he has to sell his literal soul to the devil to do it. Jeongnam sect. Leader Taehyo and his right-hand man, the heavyset Hyunso, finally roll up to Gongdong Mountain. Taehyo dives straight into business, making it crystal clear he booked it over here the second the grim news dropped. Always the sharp one, Hyunso points out the massive red flags surrounding this bloodbath, totally blown away by the massive body count that easily cleared over 300 victims. Leaning on some classic old-school wisdom, he guesses that the raw power of a seasoned veteran just completely outclasses these cocky rookies, basically calling this tragedy the harsh circle of life. Even with the brutal scene laid out before them, he admits that this absolute wipeout kind of tracks for a faction that used to flex some serious prestige and clout back in the day. While trekking through the rough and rocky paths of Gongdong Mountain, Hyunso mentally calculates the shrinking roster of the Tang family, pretty sure they had less than 100 members holding down the fort. On that peak, standing in the aftermath of total destruction, he is low-key stressing about the massive question mark hanging over the once legendary Tang clan. As the duo keeps trading theories, Taehyo admits the whole setup feels totally off, backing up his assistant that it is incredibly suspicious for a massacre of this scale to pop off on Gongdong Mountain without hitting their radar way earlier. He starts theorizing that maybe the Tang squad is intentionally ghosting them, which gets Hyunso wondering what kind of sketchy agenda they are hiding. Considering the Tang family just buttered them up with expensive tournament gifts, Hyunso is scratching his head over why they are suddenly acting so elusive. Taehyo tosses out a darker theory, guessing the Tang crew is desperately trying to sweep a massive secret under the rug, although he admits they are basically flying blind on the actual motive right now. Meanwhile, Hyunso zones out, thinking about the falling off of the Tang clan blade techniques, but gets completely hit with a jump scare when Taehyo drops the bombshell that this entire bloodbath was executed with just a short blade. Breaking down the crime scene, Taehyo explains that the surgical precision and insane speed of the kills prove this was a one-man slaughterhouse. Dead set on ripping the lid off this mystery and locking eyes with this absolute monster, Taehyo locks in a road trip to Sichuan. Even with Taehyo confidently flexing his own top-tier stats, Hyunso is sweating bullets over the lethal threats, waiting to ambush them on the road to Sichuan. Sure, his master radiates pure boss energy with maxed-out martial arts stats, but Hyunso knows his own fighting level is absolute trash compared to that. Catching the nervous vibes from his assistant, Taehyo brushes off the idea of mindlessly rushing into a boss fight, totally chilling because he knows he can easily outmaneuver whatever lethal traps cross their path. Still, Hyunso plays it safe, suggesting it might be a galaxy brain move to crash the Tang estate first so Taehyo can demand answers straight from their boss. Taehyo nods along, totally vibing with that strategic play. Zooming out to look at the chaotic meta of the martial arts world, right now Hyunso chews over the crazy turf wars and shaky alliances running the board. With the Black Death Alliance locking down the south and the demonic cult dominating the west, the Jungnam faction is basically boxed in by nightmare-tier enemies, coming from every single angle. Spotting the identical struggle between their own rough spot and the sinking Tang family, Hyunso suddenly clicks that his boss visiting their leader might actually be a mastermind move to secure an alliance and survive this cutthroat political war zone. Hyunso desperately tries to read the mind of his master. He guesses Taehyo wants to tag team with the Tang crew to push back their massive rivals, the Black Death Alliance and the demonic cult. But honestly, he is super skeptical that the Tang squad can actually carry their weight, considering they have been massively falling off lately. Ignoring his inner panic, he is just praying this team up will not force them to unleash the cursed demon sword technique, a totally unhinged last resort that guarantees catastrophic backlash. Cut to the main estate, where Elder Sam is violently scribbling away on some paperwork, right up until a minion crashes the room, announcing the tournament just wrapped, and the fighters are already rolling back, legitimately stunned by how insanely fast this deathmatch ended. Elder Sam banks heavily on the toxic poison mastery of Yom Ryong, fully expecting a massive win. Sadly, that smug confidence shatters instantly when the messenger drops a brutal reality check, confirming that Yom Ryong is completely missing from the surviving squad. Over at the main gates, the security crew is hyping each other up, betting on who snatched the crown. Their animated chatter is buzzing with massive hype until they are totally cut off by the absolute unit of our Chad swaggering up to the entrance, with an entire entourage trailing behind him. Pure adrenaline shocks through the mob, as the bystanders swarm the area, dying to figure out who actually survived the gauntlet as the ultimate champion. But right before the big reveal drops, something entirely unexpected snaps the attention of the hyped-up crowd away. Every girl in the room is practically swooning, totally mesmerized by our MC's absolute boss energy. Whispers ripple through the packed crowd, jaws drop followed by a massive wave of relief as they realize a huge chunk of the competitors actually made it out alive. Catching his son Jagal grinning from ear to ear, an assistant leans in asking if their boy is actually about to snatch the family throne. But Jagal's dad isn't buying into the hype just yet. He shoots the assistant a cautious look, warning him to keep his expectations in check, for now. Meanwhile, Yang Muyang scans the sea of faces. Taking in the chaotic vibe of the room, his mind instantly drifts to how sick with worry his mom must be. But honestly, that anxiety gets instantly hijacked by a way bigger sweat-inducing problem. What on earth is he going to do if his own mother doesn't even recognize his massive glow-up, torn between his bloodline duties and the crushing weight of his new power? Muyang is seriously stressing over the wild ride waiting ahead. Right on cue, Yuri steps up. She introduces Muyang to her dad, who practically melts into a puddle of relief, seeing his daughter back in one piece. Muyang instantly reads the room, catching the hidden meaning behind Yuri's little introduction. He straight up asks if she's low-key dropping hints for him to take her dad under his wing. Yuri doesn't even sugarcoat it, flat out admitting her dad is stupidly talented, but he's been ghosted for every promotion just because he refuses to kiss up to the higher-ups or play favorites. No nepotism, no sweet talking. Muyang's gears start turning, teaming up with the rebels who actually hate the elders. He spots a golden ticket to build his own loyal squad within the clan. Still, he admits he's totally out of the loop when it comes to Yuri's dad, Aizen, and Mario, so he mentally pins a note to dig into their backgrounds as soon as possible. While all this networking is going down, Tang Kisum, the big boss of the Tang clan, steps up, slapping on a warm smile for the crowd. Smelling blood in the water, Jagal immediately shoots his shot. He flips the switch on his signature, smooth talking, charisma, to score some easy brownie points, and it totally works. Tang Kisum eats up the flattery, nodding to the massive carry job the Jagal clan pulled off to make the lethal games a hit, heaping praise on Jagal for his family's top-tier support in running the whole show. Formalities out of the way, Tang orders the crew to head inside and report to the elders. He tells the grunts they can finally crash, since grinding through years of brutal escort missions has definitely drained their HP to 0. But Wanjin steps up and drops a bombshell. He politely declines flat out, stating they won't be setting foot inside the elder's estate. Tang Kisum freezes. His initial shock violently shifts into pure raging frustration as his brain short-circuits trying to process the sheer disrespect of Wanjin's pushback. The whole crowd starts buzzing with nervous energy, feeling the deadly tension spiking between the clan boss and Muyong's loyal crew. Tang Kisum barks out a demand for answers, and that question hangs like a dark cloud in the dead silent room. His eyes glaring daggers right through Wanjin as he waits for him to slip up. But facing down the boss's absolute disbelief, Wanjin doesn't even flinch. He keeps his cool, delivering a rock-solid, respectful clapback based entirely on the clan's ancient rulebook and traditions. He coolly drops the lore card, making it crystal clear that they are sticking to the official guidelines, 0 exceptions. A collective gasp rips through the room. Everyone is on the edge of their seats, waiting for Tang Kisum to explode. The air is practically vibrating with hostility, and you can literally see the veins popping on Tang's forehead as he caps his rage. Having his absolute authority publicly stomped on by Muyong's squad is pushing him to the breaking point. Every second feels like an hour, turning this friendly meet and greet into a total war zone. Wanjin locks his jaw, ready to tank whatever brutal punishment comes from this savage power move. But before the storm breaks, Muyong finally steps up to the plate, throwing down the gauntlet by asking out loud if there's literally anyone breathing who outranks the actual head of the family. When the crowd demands a name, Muyong drops the ultimate mic. With 0 hesitation, he flexes his title, revealing himself as the undisputed champion of the deathmatch, sending a massive reality check crashing down on the paralyzed crowd. Cut to, later deep inside his shadowy office, Tang Kejin lays out the brutal aftermath to the High Council, dropping the absolute bomb that Muyong actually took the crown. Elder Sam practically chokes on his own breath, glitching out as he tries to figure out how his own grandkid took an L, especially while packing the massively overpowered fire dragon poison. He starts coping hard, wondering if young Ryan just fumbled the execution. The math between his foolproof master plan and this epic fail just isn't mathing. Meanwhile, the Grand Elder Tang Sikchong is practically foaming at the mouth. Finding out Tang Docheon got completely wiped by Muyong's own 2 hands is sending him over the edge. His old radar for Muyong's power level was so embarrassingly off, and with the gap getting wider, he's forced to chew on the terrifying reality that this kid is actively leveling up at an insane pace right under their noses. But his ego just can't handle the truth. He stubbornly hard copes, convincing himself that Muyong had to have pulled some dirty underhanded hacks to steal the win. He'd rather die than admit this kid is actually just built different with raw, terrifying talent. Suddenly, Second Elder Tang Myungshin tosses an idea into the ring that hits the council like a freight train, forcing the old men to nod in grim agreement. Even though they tried to sweep the past under the rug, they finally realize this threat is way too massive to ignore anymore. Drama is officially brewing. Yeonmyeong clutching the tournament win has everyone shook, and the higher-ups are scrambling to dig up the real story. The 4th Elder is practically glitching out completely, mind-blown by this insane upset totally backing up Tang Myung-san's suspicions. He just cannot wrap his head around how this absolute nobody suddenly morphed into an untouchable beast, wiping the floor with every single fighter. Sensing the panic room vibes, the Grand Elder steps up to the plate, declaring that if they want the tea, they need to press Yeonmyeong face-to-face. He zeroes in on Tang Gi-sun, demanding to know where the kid is hiding. But Tang Gi-sun does not stutter, dropping the bombshell that the elders are the ones, being summoned right to his doorstep, setting the stage for a massive showdown that is about to flip the entire Tang clan upside down. Flashing back to his one-on-one with the new heir, Tang Gi-sun gets full-body chills remembering the suffocating aura radiating off the guy. Gi-sun tried to throw his weight around, but Yeonmyeong just stood there icy and unbothered. The kid flexed his sheer inner chi, paralyzing Gi-sun on the spot and totally shattering his ego against that kind of monster energy. Now playing back that alpha move, Gi-sun is basically sweating bullets trying to keep it together. The raw tension of that moment completely rewired his brain. Yeonmyeong did not just ask, he flat-out ordered the entire squad to report to the poison and stealth hall, snatching the steering wheel right out of the Elder's ancient hands. With one massive power play, the untouchable boomer regime is suddenly on the chopping block, tearing up the clan's history books. While Gi-sun gathers the guts to deliver this insane update to the top brass, it hits him hard. The old guard is washed, and the era of Yeonmyeong has officially dropped. Literally shaking in his boots, Tang Gi-sun spits out the exact threat Yeonmyeong handed him earlier. His voice cracks as he relays the new boss's ice-cold ultimatum, making the whole room feel like death is knocking. Hearing this massive disrespect, the 3rd Elder absolutely loses his mind, blowing a gasket like a ticking time bomb, totally snapping under the pressure. Bam! He obliterates a heavy oak table into toothpicks, screaming his lungs out and demanding everyone bow down to their rank. Mid-tantrum, he tries to flex by comparing their squad to the legendary Poison Phoenix itself, screaming that people need to put respect on their names. But the Grand Elder reads the room, sees the chaos, and instantly weaponizes it to secure his own throne. Cool as a cucumber, he drops a harsh truth bomb. Yeonmyeong does not have the official heir title, yet planting the seed that they can still veto this kid's rise to the top. Hyped up to squash this rebellion and put Yeonmyeong in his place, the council unanimously votes to roll up on the Poison and Stealth Hall, ready to lay down the law. With the family civil war reaching a boiling point, the elders follow the Grand Boss's orders, calling in their personal hit squads to answer this insane level of disrespect. To them, the kid is just acting out of pocket. They are dead set on flexing their muscles and reminding this rookie, who actually runs the streets in this clan. Cut to Yeonmyeong's uncle, who is literally shell-shocked by his nephew clutching the gold. Looking back at the kid's rock-bottom starting point, and all the garbage he survived growing up, Wonjin is hyped seeing the boy completely lap him in power. Memories of his late sister hit him hard, and his chest puffs up with pride, knowing exactly how hyped she would be seeing her son dominate like this. But the wholesome moment gets wrecked when an absolute buzzkill crashes the party. Mujin's dad, the guy whose son holds a massive grudge against our main character. Flashback to 3 years ago, when Yeonmyeong supposedly crippled Mujin's hand, dropping trauma on both the kid and his pops. Catching sight of this hater, and remembering that old beef Wonjin's chill vibe completely evaporates, running purely on rage. He gets right in the dude's face, squaring up and daring this guy to even try asking for payback, straight up calling him a washed-up piece of trash. Before the boomer can even clap back, Yeonmyeong cuts the tension, his voice dropping an octave. With a lethal warning, he tells the guy to watch his mouth, or things are going to get incredibly dark, hinting he might just snap Mujin's other hand, proving this kid is an absolute menace behind that poker face. Seeing his nephew radiate that kind of villain energy, Wonjin is just starstruck. It clicks that Yeonmyeong truly has the blood of the legendary Poison Phoenix running through his veins, making Wonjin respect him on a whole new level. Catching his uncle's confused look, Yeonmyeong gives a tight nod, promising to spill the whole truth soon. Wonjin knows he'll get his answers, but only when the timing is absolutely perfect. But right now, his mind is spinning over Yeonmyeong's real identity as the literal son of the Poison Phoenix. Just thinking about it drags up brutal flashbacks of blood-soaked battlefields. Every single memory proves one thing: the Tang clan does not break. Wonjin's mind flashes back to their absolute bloodbath against the Heaven's Brilliance Demon Lord, a terrifying villain who had a massive target locked right onto the Poison Phoenix herself, staring down literally impossible odds. The Tang warriors dug their heels in and unleashed pure hell. They took so much punishment that even the Demon Lord was left completely speechless. Even when that absolute psycho managed to chop off the Tang clan leader's head, the troops didn't scatter. Instead, they lost their minds and charged back in harder. Fueled by pure, unfiltered loyalty and insane rage, they tanked endless waves of attacks without giving up a single inch of ground. Their raw willpower completely crushed the enemy even after all their signature poison arts got stripped away during the chaos. Back then, Wonjin practically begged the higher-ups for backup, desperately trying to hold the line against the demon army. But those cowardly elders just left them on red. They were terrified that sending even a little help would drag the whole family into the grave. Yet even completely abandoned by their own leaders, the frontline Tang fighters still pulled off an impossible victory. That ultimate win was a massive flex of their unbreakable grit and pure survival instinct. But did the elders own up to being useless cowards? Nope. Instead, they threw Yeonmyeong's mother straight under the bus. They made her the ultimate scapegoat for every single disaster. Letting that sink in, Wonjin finally grasps the absolute nightmare that this woman had to survive while raising her boy completely alone in that toxic environment. Snapping back to reality, Wonjin drops a hardcore motivational speech that hits the Tang members right in the feels. He spells out exactly why Yeonmyeong's bloodline is a total game changer, and why they cannot fumble this ultimate redemption arc. Fired up and ready for war, Wonjin screams at his crew to swear absolute allegiance to Yeonmyeong, demanding they lay down their actual lives to shield the young boss. But before they can even finish their dramatic oath, the absolute unit himself, our Giga Chad, crashes the party. He's been waiting for the elders and their little army to show up. Wonjin instantly starts sweating bullets when he sees the sheer size of the mob rolling in, completely underestimating the elders. He never thought they'd actually pull together an entire hit squad. You could cut the tension with a knife as the old men, flanked by heavily armed guards, aggressively demand Yeonmyeong step outside. Since the kid practically spat in the council's face earlier, Wonjin's stomach does backflips. He has zero clue how this explosive standoff is going to end. The second Yeonmyeong steps out, Elder Sam goes straight for the throat. He blasts the kid, screaming that he has zero right to claim. the throne as the future clan head, without the council's stamp of approval. But Yeon Myung, he doesn't even blink. Looking cool as ice, he casually reminds the screaming boomers that he literally won the clan tournament fair and square, and is currently running the entire stealth and poison hall. He stares them down, basically asking, "What else do you geezers want from me?" The elders immediately lose their minds over his disrespectful attitude. One hyper-arrogant old man spits out a death threat, warning Yeon Myung that if he wants to keep breathing, he better start spilling exactly what went down during that tournament. Without missing a beat, Yeon Myung smirks and points out that leaking tournament details is a massive violation of clan law, mockingly acting shocked that the esteemed elders care so little about their own rules. But one boomer instantly waves off his sass, exposing that the Jagal clan already snitched. They know a massive mob of almost 300 assassins from the Dark Moon and Sword sects crashed the battle royale. Completely unbothered by the leak, Yeon Myung claps back, arguing that random gatecrashers don't void his massive victory. Then he drops an absolute nuke of a plot twist. Tang Jung-kwan and Yeon Ryon were the actual traitors, slaughtering the competitors, leaving him no choice but to execute them both to clean up the mess. The moment those words drop, Elder Sam's smug face completely shatters. He starts shrieking in pure, unfiltered panic, demanding answers. Yet Yeon Myung stays insanely chill, casually telling the old man to take a hike down to the slaughter zone and check the dead bodies himself. Completely blinded by rage, Elder Sam violently launches himself right at Yeon Myung, moving like an absolute maniac out for blood. But right before he lands a fatal strike, our Chad steps in and completely shuts him down, catching the Elder's full power charge with just one bare hand. The crazy speed of that block leaves Elder Sam totally paralyzed his brain, literally lagging as he tries to process what just happened. Flashing a cold-blooded smirk, our Chad ruthlessly roasts the old guy, dripping with pure disrespect. He stares right into Sam's terrified eyes, daring him to wake up and realize his precious granddaughter is already rotting in the dirt. Mind totally blown, Elder Sam can't figure out how Yeon Myung just casually swatted away his legendary demon-killing poison like it was absolutely nothing. That top-tier lethal toxin is supposed to instantly rip away a victim's sight and hearing on contact, leaving the old man drowning in pure helpless panic. He is straight up reeling. Did Yao Meiyan seriously just overshadow decades of his own blood, sweat, and cultivated energy? But before he can even throw another punch, Yang Mingyoung pulls out the ultimate wildcard, a vial packed with the mythical fire dragon's venom. Elder San is sweating bullets, demanding to know where on earth he scored something so insanely dangerous. In an absolute boss move, Yang Mingyoung just lets the glass drop, watching the lethal liquid literally burst into flames the second it hits the floor. Staring down the totally shell-shocked crowd, he drops a massive bomb, claiming this stuff is straight from the Tang clan's deadliest stash. Nobody is buying it. The crowd of elders starts buzzing, and Wang Jin is the first one to call cap on the whole story. Completely unbothered, Yang Mingyang doubles down, throwing the third elder right under the bus for letting the stash leak. He proceeds to absolutely roast the Tang family's non-existent morals, calling out the insane danger of letting top-tier venom get pawned off for a quick buck. Wang Jin claps back, reminding everyone just how ridiculously rare those top 10 toxins actually are. He points out that the blueprints for these formulas are completely wiped from history, making whatever is left a literal holy grail. We are talking about something way beyond cold hard cash here. These brews are the ultimate flex of the Tang family's entire legacy and dark power. He lays down a brutal warning, making it crystal clear that even a single mistake means game over. Using the clan's lethal stash for a side hustle, yeah, that guarantees a brutal crackdown. The Tang family absolutely does not play around with their laws. Yang Myung just flashes this cold, arrogant smirk. He locks eyes with Elder Sam, the exact guy who thought he could completely bypass clan rules. Dropping a reality check, Yang Myung makes it crystal clear, flexing an elder badge does not give you a free pass to dodge karma on Tang territory. Catching Elder Sam looking completely hollowed out, straight up looking like an extra from The Walking Dead, Yang Myung can read the sheer agony and massive regret practically eating the old man alive. So he decides to drop the curtain with a brutal kind of mercy, an honorable exit. Without even breaking a sweat, he flicks his wrist. Boom. A massive shockwave of fire erupts from Yang Myung, instantly turning Elder Sam into a pile of smoking ash, right in front of the entire terrified clan. The courtyard goes dead silent, followed by terrified gasps. Standing amidst the chaos, Yang Myung absolutely owns the room, radiating pure boss energy. He lays down the ultimate law. Not a single soul standing there has the clearance to question the rightful head of the house. From this second forward, he is the judge, jury, and executioner of the Tang family. Meanwhile, the Grand Elder tries desperately to throw his own minions under the bus, screaming at them for failing to catch one single target. But Yang Myung completely shatters that excuse, stepping right up into the Grand Elder's personal space. He ruthlessly calls out the old man's massive screw-up, blasting him for letting his own student's toxic betrayal put the entire bloodline in serious danger. With zero hesitation, Young Myung drops a massive bombshell. The Grand Elder's golden boy was not just some random backstabber. He was a deep-cover spy for the totally unhinged Dark Moon sect. Panicking, the corrupt elder fiercely tries to dodge the heat, barking at Young Myung to show actual receipts for this wild accusation. But then the plot absolutely thickens. Jong-il, the director's kid, marches straight to the front lines as the ultimate eyewitness to the traitor's shady moves. Looking dead serious, he breaks down the nightmare fight, exposing exactly how the suspect spammed a lethal combo of sword strikes, toxic gas, and shadow tactics during their clash. Jong-il's breakdown is the nail in the coffin. It completely backs up Young Myung's theory, and totally shuts down the corrupt elder's frantic defense. As the heat on the traitor hits a boiling point, a second elder steps out of the crowd to validate the entire story. He starts detailing how he personally watched the suspect use a highly specific blade art, one that leaves behind gashes basically identical to Jong-il's scars. This totally bulletproofs the kid's whole testimony. The slice marks mentioned were an absolute one-to-one match with the fresh battle damage on Jong-il's own skin. And if that was not enough, a top-tier council veteran drops the mic. He reveals that Tong Dukan, the traitor in question, actually slipped up and confessed his secret loyalty to the Dark Moon sect straight to his face. Walking over to Jong-il with a look of genuine respect, Young Myung admits he was totally planning to drag him into this mess as his star witness. But he keeps it real, saying he never imagined the guy would have the guts to just volunteer without being asked. Not missing a beat, Jong-il nods humbly, basically stating that Young Myung saving his neck earlier is the only reason he is still breathing, boxed in by an absolute mountain of proof. And his own student's massive betrayal, the Grand Elder completely short-circuits. He is officially out of moves. Sweating bullets and desperate to hold onto his power, he barks orders at the remaining elders to jump in and stop Young Myung. But he gets hit with absolute crickets. Looking around at the stone-cold faces of his peers, the Grand Elder suddenly realizes he is completely on his own. Completely unbothered by the tension, Young Myung steps up to deliver a brutal reality check to the Grand Elder. He brutally points out that the old man's so-called high rank is basically just featherweight status. In the grand scheme of the clan's food chain, he simply lacks the clearance to ghost a direct command from the true boss. Especially with all this heavy evidence stacked against him, blinking is not even an option. Young Myung strikes, cleanly slicing off the Grand Elder's hand in a flash of steel. It is a vicious message. This is the price for sheltering a rat inside the sacred walls of the Tang estate. Even with the crazy amount of heat on the old man, Young Myung actually pulls his final punch. He spares the elder's life simply because there is no hard proof showing they plotted together. Kneeling on the floor, the Grand Elder fake cries his thanks for the pardon. But behind his eyes, it is pure toxic math. He is calculating his next strike, mentally rewinding that insane blur-like attack speed. He just witnessed the bleeding elder starts sweating over whether the new clan head is actually a hidden master of the blade. Despite his fear, a totally psychotic smile twitches at the corner of his mouth. He buries his lethal revenge fantasy deep beneath his pathetic bootlicking act. Acting like he is just frantically trying to stop the bleeding from his stump, the old snake smoothly palms a tiny glass vial. Inside, a completely invisible, ridiculously high-tier poison straight out of his hidden stash. It might not crack the clan's top 10 deadliest list, but since it packs zero smell and zero color, it is an absolute guaranteed assassin's tool. Grasping it, a dark, twisted wave of satisfaction washes over him. The Grand Elder practically twirls his mustache, convinced his invisible toxic gas is about to flatline Young Myung, without anyone ever suspecting a messy assassination. But while this fossil thinks his silent venom is a guaranteed win, our boy is already 5 steps ahead. Young Myung sniffs out the lethal trap instantly. In a flash of steel, he lops off the geezer's remaining hand like it's absolutely nothing. The Council of Boomers immediately starts screaming that the kid has completely lost his mind, until one sharp-eyed elder spots the severed fist clutching a shattered poison vial. Young Myung is absolutely fuming. The sheer audacity of trying to assassinate the clan leader makes his blood boil, viewing it as a massive stain on their legacy. Dropping the hammer of justice, he pulls up the family rulebook. Attempted murder of the boss, that is straight-up treason. And treason comes with a one-way ticket to the afterlife. Looking dead into the crowd, he declares that this old fool's ultimate betrayal demands the ultimate price. Without batting an eye, he publicly executes the traitor right then and there. Wiping his blade, Young Myung projects his voice to the terrified crowd. Dropping a heavy reality check, nobody gets a free pass in the Tong domain. Flex your status to break the rules again, and he will personally hand-deliver your karma. He doesn't sugarcoat facts openly, admitting their clan has fallen off so hard that total collapse would not shock anyone. But despite the doom and gloom, he makes one ironclad promise. He vows to build a fortress out of this broken family, guaranteeing that no demonic sect or scaly lizard cult freak will ever touch them, cementing an era of peace across the Sichuan lands. Locking eyes with every single person in the courtyard, he drops the ultimate mic drop question. Do they recognize him as the undisputed king of the Tang? Fast forward to Tang Jihei's estate, where our guy's mom is basically vibrating with hype after catching wind that her son absolutely dominated the succession war. Waterworks are flowing as pure, unfiltered pride washes over her. Knowing those stubborn elders finally bowed to his unmatched aura, her joy translates into an insane glow-up, dialing her already top-tier elegance up to 11. Taking a moment to process her boy's insane leveling journey, a wave of bittersweet nostalgia hits her right in the feels as she misses her late husband. She pictures exactly how hyped his dad would be, seeing their kid sit on the throne, leaving an ache in her chest, wishing they could celebrate this epic dub together. Meanwhile, our absolute unit of an MC just wants to run home and hug his mom, but instead finds himself drowning in a literal mountain of administrative nightmares, dropping some heavy new decrees. He mandates that all future ops run strictly through the stealth and poison division. Any major moves, they need his official stamp of approval. The Elder Squad immediately starts whining about losing their grip, but Elder O steps up with a legit safety net, suggesting our goat operates as a regent until he hits his official adult birthday. Chewing on this idea, the young lord weighs the massive risks of handing out free power, choosing to ghost the regent concept until his background checks clear out the rats. Over at the Poison Hall, forensics confirms the third elder totally botched the fire dragon venom. Yan Myung claps back with a brutal reality check. Sure, the old heads can keep their little private armies, but from today onward, they are paying out of pocket. Every single coin they spend will be audited to death. With 2 squads now bossless, he forcefully merges them into a brand new Black Ops unit dubbed the Shadow Troop, slapping them right under the Stealth and Poison Division. Slashing their paychecks to match the new vibes, he issues a zero-tolerance ultimatum. Prove your worth to the family immediately, or pack your bags. Fast forward a few sunrises, and the Zhuge clan is absolutely sweating bullets, because Yeon Myung just pinged them for a private chat. The Zhuge patriarch is spiraling, realizing his master plan to puppet the elders just crashed and burned into dust. He silently panics, terrified that their dirty little secrets during the tournament arc are about to get leaked. Cut to Yeon Myung, who rolls up looking like an absolute raid boss, dripping with unshakable swagger. Taking the floor, he casually shrugs, noting that his chaotic schedule made him turn a blind eye to some minor details. The Zhuge boss is completely paralyzed by the insane level up in our protagonist's sheer presence, feeling that suffocating alpha energy choking the room. Asking why they were dragged here, Yeon Myung unexpectedly hits them with high praise for their magic matrix skills, dropping an impossible quest on their lap architect, the ultimate defense grid for the Tang territory. This massive curveball completely scrambles the Zhuge leader's brain, though he instantly clocks the golden ticket sitting right in front of him. Still, the old man panic defends himself, shouting that a project this massive requires a green light from his own clan head. On top of that, he cries broke, pointing out that constructing a matrix like this would absolutely bankrupt them, stressing that his people simply do not have the cash or manpower to pull off this ridiculous flex. Yang Weiyong doesn't even blink. With a lightning-fast flick of his wrist, a single needle slices through the air, and in a split second, every single thug hits the floor cold out, leaving only the Jigot clan leader standing in pure shock. The silence is deafening until Weiyong's ice-cold voice shatters it. He stares the boss down, mocking him for thinking he was an easy target, and drops a brutal reminder about the clan's ironclad laws. His ultimatum leaves absolutely zero room for negotiation. Kneel or watch the entire Jigot clan burn to the ground. He offers the trembling leader one last shot at survival, making it crystal clear that total annihilation is on the menu. Eyes locked and loaded, Weiyong starts the countdown, giving the guy a literal heartbeat to make the ultimate choice. Trapped and terrified, the boss completely caves, begging on his knees for his family's safety in exchange for absolute loyalty. Weiyong seals the deal, fully expecting this crew to stay perfectly in line. Fast forward a few days, and our guy is officially sitting on the clan leader throne. He calls up his squad, but the vibe is insanely awkward. They are sweating bullets around him. Mirio is literally shaking, using all these stiff, ultra-formal titles just to ask why he summoned them. Weiyong just cracks up. He waves off the weird corporate energy, telling his crew to drop the act and vibe exactly like they used to. Instantly, the heavy atmosphere shatters, flipping the script from a tense thriller to a hangout session. Yuri blinks, asking if he is seriously down for that. Never missing a beat, Aijun slams his boots right onto the table, claiming his VIP status. Mirio finally exhales and drops her guard. Watching them go from 0 to 100 way too fast, Weiyong smirks and jokes that maybe they should go back to bowing, totally entertained by their chaos. Getting back to business, Yuri leans in to ask what the actual agenda is. Weiyong drops the mic. He just handed her dad the massive title of chief officer. Jaws physically drop on Aijun and Mirio. Weiyong breaks it down, hyping up her dad's top-tier skills. and calling it the ultimate flex her family needs to take. It is like the guy is just tossing out CEO positions for fun, leaving everyone scrambling to process the hype. But Yuri hesitates, terrified that putting a target on her dad's back will trigger major backlash. Wei Yong brushes it off like it is nothing, promising that handling a few salty haters is a walk in the park. But his tone shifts. He makes it deadly clear if her dad slacks off, flexes his power, or touches the money, it is game over for him. Yuri goes on the defensive immediately, swearing her dad would never pull something that shady. With the executive decision locked in, Wei Yong tasks Yuri with being her dad's personal guide to surviving the new gig. Internally, Wei Yong knows that as long as the old man plays by his rulebook, no enemy stands a chance against them. While Yuri is busy holding back emotional tears, Wei Yong pivots to Mirio and Aijun, demanding the rundown on their lives. This is the real reason for the meetup. He is building a covert squad of heavy hitters, specifically targeting outcasts and hidden talents to forge his own elite inner circle. We are literally watching an Avengers-level assembly, except everyone here carries massive trauma instead of capes. He kicks things off with Mirio, but she completely blanks out, having 0 draft picks to offer. Shifting focus, Wei Yong grills Aijun about the Medicine King Hall, poking at his deep family ties to the faction. Aijun completely freezes. The room gets insanely suffocating before he finally forces the words out, admitting he has been dreading this exact topic. Why? Because that specific hall is directly linked to Wei Yong, specifically to the dark history of his father, Tang Longjian. Instantly, a shadow crosses Wei Yong's face. Aijun drops the ultimate bomb. He is talking about the exact people who orchestrated the poisoning of Wei Yong's dad, the true mastermind behind the hit The Medicine King Hall. Mirio gasps, demanding to know if Aijun is absolutely positive about this. Before Aijun can even defend his claim, Yuri snaps. Channeling pure savage energy, she aggressively demands that Wei Yong goes on a warpath and makes those traitors bleed for touching his family. Wei Yong immediately shuts her down, his eyes locked on Aijun, needing the rest of the puzzle. Aijun reveals that this hall operates completely off the grid. It is buried so deep in the estate that even the High Elders have 0 jurisdiction there. It is a fortress dedicated to hardcore alchemy and lethal toxins, funding their dark research by pushing rare cures and medical supplies. Even when the Heavenly Demon disaster nearly wiped everyone out, the Tang clan only survived because this shady hall bailed them out. By injecting massive amounts of cash to keep the empire afloat, Aijun starts visibly shaking with rage. As he looks Wei Yong dead in the eye and drops the final twist, the ruthless boss running that corrupt hall is his own grandfather. Mirio chimes in, dropping the bomb that the guy actually got booted for a sketchy reason. Ijon jumps right in to spill the rest of the tea. Back when his grandpa was running the show as the absolute boss of the Medicine King Hall, the dad of Yun Myung Tang Wei Ryong would literally show up at their doorstep every single day. Following that brutal invasion, the public completely turned on the Medicine King Hall, and the pure hatred was off the charts. Even though Tang Wei Ryong was just a bookworm with 0 internal martial arts energy, he threw hands with anyone who dared to trash talk the hall. Man, those street fights absolutely wrecked him, leaving him battered and completely scarred up. Yeon Myung breaks it down. When a regular dude takes a hit, loaded with inner force, their body simply cannot absorb the shockwave, guaranteeing some massive internal bleeding. Knowing all that, his dad still took those beatings like an absolute unit. Ijeon then takes the story darker, exposing a massive beef that went down with Tong Il, the guy sitting high and mighty as the vice leader of the Medicine King Hall at the time. Things went completely nuclear when Tong Il got caught disrespecting the mom of Yeon Myung. Instead of taking the L and apologizing, Tong Il resorted to dirty martial arts the second he started losing the verbal smackdown. The chaos only ended when his grandpa finally stepped in to shut it down. Because of that unhinged stunt, Tang Il instantly got his name wiped from the leader succession list. Yeon Myung connects the dots, asking if a salty Tang Il poisoned his dad out of pure revenge. Choking back tears, Ijeon admits that poisoning the dad of Yeon Myung was just the start. Tang Il went completely rogue. He outright murdered the dad of Ijeon, dosed his grandpa with lethal toxins, and ruthlessly tossed the old man into a dungeon. Hearing this absolute horror story, Mirio is jaw-dropped that a scandal this huge was kept totally under the radar. Ijeon explains the harsh reality with his grandpa heavily poisoned and basically losing his grip on reality. Nobody would ever believe the ramblings of an old man, enough to start a revolution. That deep desperation pushed Ijeon to enter the deadly tournament. For 3 straight years, the villains deliberately kept the whistleblowers alive, trapping everyone in a super toxic stalemate, fueled entirely by paralyzing fear and forced silence. Completely breaking down, Ijeon cries that he has been way too terrified to even look his imprisoned grandpa in the eyes. He hits Yeon Myung with a brutal apology, admitting that recruiting elite prodigies from the Medicine King Hall is practically impossible in this dumpster fire of a situation. Yeon Myung squints, realizing a major plot hole. Why on earth is the vice leader keeping the grandpa breathing? Offing him would permanently cover their tracks. Through his tears, Ijon drops an absolute lore bomb on Yeonmyeong. Apparently, the Medicine King Hall hides a shadow division so classified that not even the top elders know it exists. Hidden deep inside is a legendary core pill, forged directly from the essence of a mythical lava beast known as the 10,000-year fire carp. Yuri looks absolutely shook, while Ryo literally refuses to process that a boss monster like that is actually real. Yeonmyeong is mad confused. Usually core pills are just basic stat boosters for internal energy. But Ijon pulls up a wild legend from 100 years back, claiming the underboss of the Fiery Sun Palace literally ate the core pill of a 10,000-year fire carp and instantly evolved straight into the god-tier realm of fire. Ijon breaks down the catch, though. This legendary pill is laced with a ridiculously lethal venom. If you pop it without purifying the toxin first, there is a 90% chance you are getting sent straight to the afterlife. But forcing the poison out basically nerfs the magical buffs of the pill. Hearing this insane trade-off, Yeonmyeong questions if there is any hack to keep the crazy power boost while cleansing the venom. The realization hits hard. Literally nobody, except his grandpa, the master alchemist and former leader, has the skills to pull that off. Ijon confirms that this is exactly what Tang-il is scheming. His master plan is to devour that purified pill, forcefully unlock the fire realm, and become an absolute menace. Once he hits that power spike, he plans to take his loyal goons, ditch the Tang clan completely, and launch his own rival faction. That massive reveal leaves the entire squad sitting there in stunned silence. Judging by the incredibly short height of Tong, Yeonmyeong mentally roasts the guy, thinking this master plan is completely delusional. Cheating your way into the fire realm with a pill does not grant true enlightenment. It just drops you into a trash tier level way below the actual transcendent realm. Yeonmyeong looks back on his 3 years rolling with Ijon. Despite carrying all that traumatic baggage, the guy never folded under pressure and faked a flawless smile for the crowd. Giving him some major respect for spilling his tragic backstory, Yeonmyeong hits him with the ultimate question. If they roll up completely, wipe out the traitorous scumbags, and heal his grandpa, could the Medicine King Hall actually make a comeback? He flexes a bit, assuring Ijon that he already has the antidote completely secured. But before going full John Wick on these traitors, he needs the green light from his bro. Ijon hypes himself up, swearing they can absolutely rebuild the faction from the ashes, even if he feels like a total rookie compared to the current tyrant. Yeonmyeong smirks, deeply relieved by that answer. He turns to Ryo, swearing he will listen to her personal drama the second they finish, scrubbing the hall clean, and she is totally down for it. Yeonmyeong commands Ijon to gear up for an all-out raid on the Medicine King Hall. But right before they move out, Ijon stops him and points out a crucial detail. He hasn't even swung by to see his mom since hitting the main estate, so someone suggests he better go check on her right away. But Yeonmyeong brushes it off. He knows his mom totally gets the grind. She knows the new head of the family cannot just ditch his duties. Plus, there is zero chance she would want him sitting around doing nothing after finding out the pure hell his best friend just went through. Cut to the Medicine King Hall. That heavyset snake Tang-il is practically sweating bullets over the fact that Tang Wei-ryong's kid, Yeonmyeong, just snatched the family head title. Yeah, that is a massive thorn in his side. But the villain takes a deep breath and copes. He rationalizes that all his shady backstabbing went down way before Yeonmyeong was even a thought. The kid could not possibly know the dark truth about what really happened to his dad. Still, Ijun going completely off the grid is seriously messing with Tong-il's head. He knows for a fact she would never just ghost her own grandfather. A wicked smirk creeps across his face. Did she actually crack? Did she finally value her own skin over the old man's life? Honestly, squashing her would be incredibly easy. But right now, his biggest headache is that absolute goldmine of an inner pill. Absorbing that raw energy to break right into the fire realm is the ultimate endgame. The only roadblock, dealing with one ridiculously stubborn geezer. Even when the old guy regains consciousness, his lips are totally sealed. Not a single word. And that is throwing a massive wrench into Tang-il's master plan. The villain actually debates drawing out the poison himself, but he hesitates, knowing one tiny slip-up means the whole inner pill is completely ruined. While he is racking his brain for a safer shortcut, a frantic knock rattles his door. A servant screams that the family head just crashed the party. Tang-il nearly jumps straight out of his own skin. And outside, total unadulterated chaos. The Bongui Brigade is literally ripping through the Medicine King Hall. The brutal sound of bones snapping echoes across the courtyard, completely drowned out by absolute screams of agony. Spearheading this absolute bloodbath with an aura that screams pure menace, their brand new family head, Yeonmyeong. His eyes are dead set. He looks ready to turn this entire place into a graveyard. The junior disciples are panicking, screaming their lungs out. Sensing the absolute storm, they just triggered a visibly stressed Ijun marches right up to Yeonmyeong. She vents that she literally flipped the place upside down but still cannot find her grandfather. Pushed to her absolute breaking point, she violently grabs one of the hall members. She screams right in his face, demanding answers. But the guy, dead silent. It is like these fools suddenly forgot how to speak English. Out of patience, Yeon Myung shoots a cold glare at Wang Jin and gives the signal. Wang Jin launches forward, shredding through the guards like a hot knife cutting through butter. The surviving enemies just freeze, absolutely traumatized. Yeon Myung stares down the shivering survivors. He coldly states they only need one person alive to talk instantly, shutting down any pathetic pleas. Catching the fatal drift, one dude immediately starts singing. He stammers out that right when the tournament kicked off. Tang Il dragged the former leader away and locked him deep inside the Nodak sector. Hearing that cursed name, Ibin and Wang Jin literally dropped their jaws. Nodak, the ultimate quarantine zone for the highly infectious. It is notoriously freezing, drenched in moisture, and completely cut off. They literally shut those cells down because throwing sick people in there was basically a guaranteed death sentence. Wasting zero time, Yeon Myung charges straight toward the sinister zone, dragging Ijun with him. He tosses an order back to Wang Jin to wipe the floor with the rest and guard the gates. Wang Jin smirks. He goes absolute goblin mode, instantly dropping every single enemy left standing in the courtyard. Those arrogant Medicine King disciples are now bawling for mercy, but they are just catching the brutal end of his savage beatdown. Meanwhile, descending into a claustrophobic pitch-black cavern, Yeon Myung thinks to himself, Nodak, a terrifyingly perfect name for this absolute hellhole. Hitting the final door, Ijun totally shatters. Tears flood her face as panic sets in. What if they are already too late? But Yeon Myung immediately grounds her. He locks onto a faint pulse with his insanely sharp senses and promises her the old man is still breathing. Spotting the exact cell, he commands Ijun to step the heck back. With one fluid, brutal swing, he absolutely obliterates the iron bars. The sight inside is gut-wrenching. The grandfather looks like walking death, his body completely wrecked, clearly the sinister work of the mountain-subduing poison. Catching Ijun spiraling into full-blown panic, Yeon Myung snaps her back to reality. He tells her to lock in. They kick the door down to save this man, and that is exactly what they will do. Seriously, the guy is an absolute menace with a blade, but surprisingly elite at giving high-stakes therapy sessions. Staring down the lethal side effects, Ijun desperately drops the worst news yet. Those scumbags did not just hit him with the mountain-subduing strain. They actually pumped the Thunderbolt idiocy poison straight into his system. This vile stuff skips the body and goes straight for the brain. It is not meant to flatline you, just absolutely scramble your cognitive functions. It is technically low-grade, but because it bypasses the blood-brain barrier, standard antidotes are completely useless if you do not act fast. To Yeon Myung, though, this looks like absolute child's play. He barks at Ijun to pin her grandfather down. Locking in, he slams his palm onto the old man's chest, his eyes burning with intense focus. Flexing his raw inner energy, Yeon Myung activates a crazy high-risk technique, literally turning his body into a black hole for the toxin. He rapidly purges the lethal sludge straight out of the old man's veins. Watching his glowing hand, Ijun's eyes go wide. She realizes this madman is absorbing the fatal poison right into his own system. But Yeon Myung does not even flinch. For a guy who has casually digested the most lethal venoms in existence, this is just the fastest way to get the job done. The moment he draws out that toxic sludge color, immediately floods right back into the grandpa's pale, sickly face. With the brutal detox fully wrapped up, Tang Yeon Myung gently nudges the elderly warrior back onto his own 2 feet. Fluttering his heavy eyelids open, the old-timer is instantly greeted by the teary-eyed face of his granddaughter Lee Jun. But here is the hilarious kicker that completely shatters the heavy tension. The dazed elder actually mistakes our boy for his late father, Tong Wei Ryong. Lee Jun quickly steps up to drop a massive reality check. She breaks down the insane events that just went down officially, introducing Yeon Myung as the brand new head honcho of the clan. A wave of pure, unadulterated pride washes over our protagonist. He actually managed to pull his father's closest comrade right back from the brink of death. Overwhelmed, the elder completely loses it. Tears stream down his weathered face, totally mind-blown that a kid half his age just saved his life. Guilt hits him like a freight train. He sobs over his past mistakes, agonizing over choices that brutally robbed our hero of the chance to ever meet his real dad. Drowning in a sea of raw emotion, the grandpa starts talking straight to the ghost of Tong Wei Ryong, acting like his old friend is standing right there in the room. You would be so insanely proud of your boy, he chokes out, wishing his fallen brother in arms could witness the absolute unit his son has become. Wiping his tears, a fiery new resolve ignites in the veteran's eyes. Even with his advanced age, he swears a blood oath to serve the new patriarch until his final breath. Matching that fierce loyalty with cold, hard action, our main character tosses his heavy coat to the freezing elder. It is a silent, powerful promise he is about to secure top-tier ranks for both him and Lee Jun. Dropping his voice into a low, commanding register, Yeon Myung declares that playtime is officially over. A massive crowd of spectators is anxiously waiting for their grand entrance outside. Cut to the antagonist, Tang Il. His already punchable face twists into a grotesque mask of pure rage, completely baffled that the poisoned geezer is actually standing tall. The gears turn in the villain's head. Knowing this miraculous recovery was orchestrated by the new clan leader, he realizes a head-on clash would be absolute suicide. But arrogance is a deadly disease. Even after witnessing the boss butcher the other corrupt elders, this delusional fool still tries to trigger a massive power trip. He arrogantly flexes his department's massive financial leverage, basically threatening that without his fat stacks of cash, the entire Tang Empire would instantly collapse. Our boy is not having any of it. Staring daggers right through that pathetic false confidence, his aura turns ice cold as he essentially grants the traitor his final dying words. Pivoting to the veteran, the boss offers him the floor to deliver a final verdict. But instead of listening, the cowardly Tang Il panics and makes a desperate dash for the exit. Not so fast, buddy. Mid-sprint, the traitor's muscles violently lock up. A deadly razor-sharp poison needle has just pinned him dead in his tracks. Stepping up to the paralyzed rat, our protagonist casually drops the mic that lethal little projectile, entirely handcrafted by none other than Li Zhon. It is the ultimate flex of her ruthless precision and lethal talent. She just proved to everyone that she is more than qualified to snatch Tang Il's vacant throne. In one lightning-fast, merciless motion, Yeon Myung rips the needle out. The corrupt elder instantly hits the dirt, finally meeting his incredibly satisfying demise. Watching their supposedly untouchable boss bite the dust, the surviving lackeys from the Medicine King faction absolutely lose their minds and scatter like terrified roaches. No loose ends, though. Following a strict kill order, the elite vanguard brigade drops from the shadows, systematically wiping out the fleeing cowards with surgical precision. The rest of the sect stands completely paralyzed in sheer terror. In the blink of an eye, an entire legendary faction has been mercilessly wiped off the face of the earth. Of course, the peanut gallery has to chime in. A bunch of arrogant wannabe expert nobodies start gossiping, claiming the Tang family is completely doomed without their medical department's deep pockets. Blocking out the pointless background noise, our badass protagonist completely locks his focus onto that legendary glowing inner core. The seasoned veteran quickly issues a stern warning. If that incredibly volatile artifact remains unsealed, it is basically a massive beacon for more greedy snakes like Tang Il to crawl out of the woodwork. To play it safe, the old man volunteers to hold on to the radioactive prize, promising to hand it over the second its chaotic, toxic aura finally cools down. But our guy is built absolutely different. Staring at the core like a starving predator eyeing a massive steak, he flatly rejects the offer and demands the prize right this second. Totally baffled, the elder desperately tries to talk some sense into him. He warns that carrying around a ticking time bomb is a terrible idea unless he plans on consuming it on the spot. Little does the grandpa know, our hero perfectly understands the apocalyptic level of toxicity locked inside that sphere. To him, it is not a hazard. It is the ultimate high-tier loot. Flashing a confident smirk, he reassures his worried subordinate that there is zero chance he would ever let an ultra-rare artifact like this go to waste. Ignoring the core's pure energy for a second, he zeroes in specifically on its raw, unfiltered venom. Slapping his bare hand right onto the searing orb, he violently kicks off the absorption process. As the scorching toxins flood his veins, his mind is blown by the sheer intensity. It is exactly what you would expect from a legendary spirit beast that literally bathed in molten lava. Yet, crazily enough, when stacked against the absolute nightmare fuel that was the demonic fire dragon's venom, this spicy little core actually feels like a complete breeze. Even still, he quickly realizes the brutal truth. If any average martial artist dared to swallow this thing raw, the erupting heat would instantly vaporize their organs from the inside out. But here is the real kicker. Even with all that catastrophic heat, it still does not even hold a candle to the utterly terrifying top-secret 10 ultimate poisons of his own bloodline. This realization flips a massive switch in his brain. Right then and there, he vows to aggressively level up his mastery over his family's legendary forbidden arsenal. With the brutal purification phase finally complete, he stares down at the now stabilized core. It is practically vibrating with insane, concentrated spiritual energy fully primed for a massive power-up. Shifting gears, our boy makes his way down the grand halls to his mother's upgraded deluxe suite. A quick knock, a soft voice giving the green light, and he strides in to find her anxiously pacing. The infamous Poison Phoenix is still in total disbelief. She genuinely thought she was permanently banished from the main estate, counting her lucky stars every single day that she birthed such an absolute prodigy. Clearly that undeniable main character charisma is completely hereditary. Flashing a smooth smile, our hero shuts down her humble talk, fiercely reminding the matriarch that she owns this place. She deserves absolute luxury. Studying her gorgeous but deeply exhausted features, he can tell she has spent weeks terrified for his safety. Completely breaking her tough exterior, she launches into a frantic, bone-crushing embrace. It is that classic overpowered motherly hug, the kind that instantly melts away all that cold martial arts edge faster than a lit match in a powder keg. Tung Yeon-myung looks back at his past life, a literal nightmare where toxic regret ate him alive right up to his final breath. Total isolation, 0 people to celebrate his wins with. Staring down death, he makes a hard vow, no reruns of those massive screw-ups. This time around, he is locking down his new life, guarding it fiercely, and squeezing every single drop of juice out of every moment. Cutting back to reality, Yeon casually checks in with his mom, asking if she bumped into the Vanguard squad. Nodding, she explains the crew dropped by earlier to help haul their stuff. Catching those familiar loyal faces hits her right in the feels, leaving her eyes straight up welling with tears. Spotting something clutched in his hands, she tilts her head, totally curious. He flexes his surprise, a crazy rare 10,000-year fire carp elixir. Her jaw basically drops. She knows exactly what that legendary item is. He just smiles, telling her the only thing left to do is swallow the damn thing. But moms being moms, she instantly pushes back. She insists that absolute powerhouse of an elixir belongs in his system, especially since he is next in line to rule the Tang dynasty. Yeon just lets out a soft chuckle. Wrapping his arms around her for a tight hug, he gently breaks it down. He has already maxed out what this specific core can do. It wouldn't boost his stats one single bit. To prove his point, he casually unleashes a fraction of his aura. His mom is absolutely floored. She gasps, asking if he actually broke through to the mythical fire realm. With absolute swagger, he nods. She is absolutely buzzing. Her boy just hit a god-tier milestone that demands a massive party. But the hype quickly dies down. Paranoia creeps in. If the ops catch wind of this insane power spike, it places a giant glowing crosshair right on the Tang family's back. Locking eyes with her, Yeon lays it out straight. He needs her to outlive everyone. He wants her surviving and thriving long enough to live out his late dad's share of life too. He practically shoves the glowing medicine toward her, telling her to down it before the aura evaporates. Taking a breath, she realizes she is overthinking things way too much. It clicks for her. It is hardwired into a mother's DNA to shield her kid, even if that kid is a walking nuke in the fire realm. Flashing a warm smile, she promises not to waste the legendary gift he scored for her. Then her vibe shifts. She leans in, asking if he knows the street name she rocked back in her prime. Dropping some absolute lore, she reveals she wasn't just the supreme stunner of Sichuan, she was the lethal poison phoenix. Boom. She flares her own dormant aura to digest the elixir. Catching Yeonmyung's jaw hitting the floor, she smirks. It has been a hot minute since she managed to genuinely stun her overpowered son. Turns out that Poison Phoenix moniker, it is a god-tier title strictly locked behind the highest, most elite ranks of the entire Tang bloodline. Sure, she totally admits she is not throwing hands on Yeonmyung's broken level, but make no mistake, she is a high-key menace on the battlefield all by herself. Riding the explosive high of the elixir, she immediately drops into a deep cultivation trance, fiercely locked in on skyrocketing her own limits. This isn't just a basic mana recharge. Mom is straight up patching her entire combat software and rewriting her martial arts ceiling. Yeonmyung is standing there totally stunned. He always suspected she was nerfing herself, but he had zero clue her true stats were this utterly stacked. Homegirl is literally hovering 1 inch away from hitting the fire realm herself, yet her stealth is so insanely flawless, you'd never sense a thing. Meanwhile, she is tearing through that mystical aura like it is popcorn at the movies. Now normally, a fire realm beast like Yeonmyung can spot a pin drop from a mile away, meaning cloaking your power level in front of him is usually impossible. Yet somehow, this woman effortlessly ghosted his radar the entire time. That flex absolutely scrambles his brain. She has already bypassed the massive bottleneck right before enlightenment, furiously devouring the core's pure spiritual essence. It is like watching an absolute masterclass in stealth and power. She is dropping jaws and pulling off sorcery that shouldn't even be mathematically possible. Analyzing her flow, Yeonmyung bets she can actually shatter her own glass ceiling. But wait, there is a massive roadblock incoming. The blueprint for eating an energy core is basic. Rip out the aura, force it into your veins, lock it down, and spam that cycle until the core is dry. Imagine crushing a family-sized bag of chips, one single crunch at a time until you hit the bottom of the bag. Only replace the junk food with raw radioactive chi. Mid-trance, his mom starts heavily sweating, wondering if swallowing this glitchy amount of mana is even survivable. The elixir's aura is evaporating into thin air, and panic starts creeping into her mind. If she keeps lagging, this legendary item is going to fizzle out before she even consumes 50% of it. Out of nowhere, a massive comforting presence crashes into her headspace. It is Yeonmyung. His voice cuts through the static, reminding her that true enlightenment absolutely hates overthinkers. To clear the hurdle, she needs to read the room, break down the cosmic mechanics around her, and straight up copy the flow. Basically, it is like mirroring a viral dance trend from a pro creator. Just swap the footwork for spiritual mastery. To jumpstart her rhythm, he forcefully nudges her internal mana. His deep thrumming aura tangles with the core melting right into it. Watching his blueprint, it clicks. He is flexing the clan's ultimate hidden technique, the poisonous vital azure radiant heart. The light bulb goes off. Instead of forcefully digesting the foreign mana drop by painful drop, she transmutes the raging energy into a familiar frequency and slurps it right up. In a flash of absolute brilliance, she shatters her bottleneck. Enlightenment hits her like a freight train as she flawlessly drains every last drop of that mythical core. Sensing her stabilized aura, Yeonmyeong flashes a proud grin. Mission accomplished, she has officially ascended into the legendary Fire Realm. It was like watching a speedrunner absolutely glitch through a boss fight in record time, pure, unadulterated magical dominance without breaking a sweat. Fast forward to the next dawn. The entire clan is packed inside the Stealth and Poison Hall. The Poison King himself, Tang Jihawk, is instantly throwing a tantrum, violently complaining about this crack of dawn summit when his schedule is already slammed. One heavily bearded boomer elder snaps at Yeonmyeong's uncle, the Dark King, Tang Jokwai, demanding to know where the hell the family head is hiding. He aggressively barks that pulling the boss card doesn't give him a free pass to leave the senior council hanging like absolute fools. Seriously, it is the ultimate corporate nightmare, dragging everyone out of bed for an urgent sunrise meeting, only to leave them staring at the walls. Absolutely 0 stars for a morning routine. Soaking in the toxic whining echoing around the hall, Tang Jokwai furiously bites his tongue, fighting to keep his own raging temper on a leash, telling the room to hold tight until the big boss shows up. Next thing you know, a voice booms out, the clan head is finally here. Tang Yeonmyeong steps into the spotlight, giving props to the whole crew for rolling out of bed so early. He drops a bombshell, claiming they've got some heavy business to handle today. Meanwhile, the bearded boomer in the back is scratching his head, completely clueless about what kind of emergency could possibly drag them out at the crack of dawn. Yeonmyeong doesn't beat around the bush. He announces he's tagging in a proxy leader to run the show until he officially levels up to adulthood. Catching wind of this, the bearded elder scoffs, asking if he's going to handpick one of the current heads, basically assuming the kid is just playing pretend. But Yeonmyeong, radiating pure gigachad energy, completely flips the script. He smirks and asks why this guy just assumed an elder was getting the crown. It's like expecting a basic pizza party and getting hit with an elite sushi bar. It totally shakes things up. Right at that peak moment of tension, the heavy doors swing wide open. Uncle Tang Jokwai whips his head toward the entrance, his jaw practically hitting the floor. Striding right into the Stealth and Poison Hall is none other than his sister, the legendary Poison Phoenix. The council elders are absolutely losing their minds, low-key shaking in their boots because this absolute icon hasn't shown her face in decades. It's that exact heart-drop moment, when your strict high school principal randomly crashes your chill family cookout. Pure chaos, super awkward, but a massive game changer. Yeonmyeong knows deep down she's the absolute GOAT for the throne, especially after she took the fall for that disastrous invasion back in the day, which gave the Council of Elders the excuse to brutally strip her of her leadership. Staring down the room, she coldly announces that she spots a whole lot of familiar faces in the crowd. And spoiler alert, she is totally done playing nice. It's the ultimate underdog comeback story hitting its climax, instantly brewing some spicy, high-stakes drama right inside the Stealth and Poison Hall. Brushing it off, she casually drops an apology for holding up the meeting. Flashback to the night before the big reveal. While soaking in her bath, she was totally vibing with her insane power-up to the Fire Realm. But there was one massive buzzkill. Her body was purging all this nasty, toxic gunk, and she was majorly struggling to handle the gross cleanup. A servant totally walked in on that cringe-worthy moment, making it 10 times worse. Awkwardness aside, the real hurdle was trying to tame her crazy new stats. Yet hitting this elite tier finally made something click. She suddenly understood exactly what her son was dealing with. It dawned on her that Yeonmyeong hadn't just reached the Fire Realm. He had absolutely maxed out his stats. It's like copping a brand new phone and having zero clue how the new interface works. A seriously steep learning curve, even for a total pro. As far as her intel goes, the only other dude walking around with Fire Realm status is the big bad of the Black Death Alliance. Realizing her kid is casually matching the final boss's energy, she starts stressing over the insane hell he must have survived during the tournament. Her brain is buffering, trying to connect the dots on a puzzle that is missing half its pieces. More than anything, she just wants to sit down and have a real, raw talk with her boy, something they haven't done in way too long. Cut to later, Yeonmyeong hypes his mom up for her massive glow-up into the Fire Realm, but she immediately passes the crown back to him, gesturing for him to take a seat. The vibes are super wholesome and deep right up until she drops the million-dollar question. How exactly did he cheat code his way into the Fire Realm? Her mind is basically blown that a kid his age unlocked that kind of god-tier status. It's that surreal feeling of watching a toddler casually pull off a master-level illusion. Wild, trippy, and totally unbelievable. Yeonmyeong freezes for a sec, his brain scrambling for a safe response. He knows she'd never buy the "I got enlightened from my past life memories" lore. Dodging that bullet, he thinks about just blaming his power-up on the tournament. So he pivots, asking if she caught the tea about one of the 10 poisons getting smuggled out. She nods, confirming the rumor mill, said the Grand Champion. Bagged the legendary Fire Dragon poison as a prize. Without missing a beat, Yeonmyeong drops the nuke. He straight up chugged that toxic cocktail, somehow tanked the damage, and boom, enlightenment achieved. She completely short-circuits, staring at him in sheer disbelief. Sure, it technically wasn't Cap, but he was definitely leaving out the wildest details. The man just casually tossed a grenade into a peaceful room, leaving her totally muted and questioning her own reality. The shock instantly turns into panic mode, and she starts freaking out, demanding to know what possessed him to ingest something so lethal. Yeonmyeong quickly waves his hands, trying to chill her out and promising he's 100% solid. He spins the story mid-battle. He was already stacked with nasty debuffs and absorbing the fiery venom. Was the crazy catalyst that pushed him past his limits, rocketing him straight into the fire realm. Taking all this in, his mom is hella skeptical at first, but after letting it marinate, she actually buys the crazy logic. Yeonmyeong internally wipes a sweat drop. Thrilled he dodged a massive interrogation. Changing lanes, his mom brings up the spicy gossip she overheard from the maid during her bath. Rumors that Yeonmyeong was quietly trashing the meds straight from the Medicine King Hall. Realizing he's backed into a corner, he decides to just drop the filter and keep it real. Mostly because this heavy stuff is directly tied to his old man. Sitting her down, he spills the entire unvarnished truth over a long, intense chat. Processing the massive info dump, she admits her radar had already been pinging about this and her heart seriously aches for Ijun, knowing the girl has been through absolute hell. It's that gut punch moment when a dark family skeleton gets dragged out of the closet, completely shattering the reality you knew. The vibe shifts into heavy empathy, mixed with hardcore worry for the whole squad. Pleading with Yeonmyeong, she confesses that she's been living like a literal ghost in this household, paralyzed by the fear of losing her only kid right after losing her husband. She drops the ultimate truth bomb, looking him dead in the eye and vowing that she is done hiding. If he just gives her the green light, she will throw her life on the line to shield him, regardless of the massive power gap between them. Flash forward to the present, and the entire room is absolutely paralyzed. Jaws hit the floor as the Poison Phoenix steps up, looking like she literally has not aged a single day. Whispers ripple through the crowd, with half of them half joking that she must have unlocked some secret immortality cheat code. Her brother, Tang Jokwei. The guy is an absolute emotional wreck in the best way possible, projecting his voice across the hall to demand respect for Yeonmyeong's mother, officially hyping her up as the brand new boss of the Tang bloodline. Meanwhile, that crusty bearded elder looks like he just swallowed a lemon, totally short-circuiting over the fact that she is snatching the permanent crown and not just warming the seat as a temp. Dripping with pure elegance, she bows and thanks the crowd, but instantly shuts down the rumors by clarifying her reign is just a placeholder gig until her son levels up and takes his rightful throne. Hearing this absolute loyalty, her brother, Tang Jokwei, straight up bursts into ugly tears of joy. On the flip side, the rest of the council, especially our favorite bearded hater, are squirming in their seats like they are sitting on burning coals. With the absolute power of the matriarch now resting in her palms, she wastes zero time tearing down the rotting framework of the crumbling Tang Empire to build it back from scratch. And let me tell you, her first moves are completely unhinged in the best way possible. She kicks things off by nuking the disgraced Medicine King Hall brand, violently rebranding it to Tong Hoel. Boom. Next, she promotes Ijun's grandfather to the ultimate top-tier surgeon spot, slapping Ijun right there beside him as his right-hand woman. It is an insanely massive flex, basically taking a crumbling dynasty and dragging it kicking and screaming into a brand new era, sending absolute shockwave through the entire Tang hierarchy. She does not stop there. She taps Yuri's dad as the new general manager, tossing him the keys and ordering a ruthless deep dive investigation into Gasoon. The guy goes full detective mode, instantly digging up the corrupt elder's shadow ledgers and dragging a mountain of stolen cash back into the daylight. We are talking enough loot to keep the entire clan's operations running smoothly for the foreseeable future. But she is bringing the hammer down on Moon Chen's father, Tong Ji-hyuk. The head of the Stealth and Poison Hall gets ruthlessly stripped of his badge. Not to mention basically every single crusty elder who ever pocketed a dime of family money gets instantly booted from their cushy thrones. Even the low-level managers who thought they could skim off the top find themselves violently thrown out onto the streets. Zero tolerance period. This entire massive purge goes down in just a handful of days. It is a brutal, beautiful hurricane tearing through the courtyard, blasting away the garbage, and leaving a sparkling clean slate behind. A literal speedrun of taking out the trash that flips the entire power dynamic on its head. Watching this absolute masterclass, Yeonmyeong cannot help but view his mom as an absolute legend. Our absolute gigachad is out here soaking in the glorious new vibe of the Tang Syndicate now that his mom is steering the ship. She surgically neutralized every single piece of internal drama without breaking a sweat. Back in the day, Yeonmyeong just wanted to chill off the grid with his mom, but now he is squatted up. He is backed by elite enforcers and literally hundreds of blood relatives looking to him. That heavy crown of responsibility, it is settling right onto his shoulders. Going from a lone wolf to the conductor of a massive, deadly symphony is wild, but it is exactly the kind of massive level up he desperately needed. Remember when just waking up and surviving the day was a struggle weighed down by all that dark trauma and self-hatred? Those days are dead. His only focus right now is grinding to peak absolute power, forging himself into a human shield for the Tangs. He does not care if it is the Black Alliance, that creepy demon freak or whoever else steps up. Nobody is ever touching his family again. He is locking into his guardian arc, radiating pure unbreakable armor energy, ready to slaughter anyone who crosses their borders. Cut to the dark towering fortress of the Black Death Alliance, where the ultimate big bad Yu Jun is brooding over the wild rumor that the Tangs just crowned a new queen, right in the middle of his plotting. The leader of the transforming heart sect, Yu Soran, slides into the room and asks for permission to spill some tea. He waves her forward, probably praying for a crumb of decent news for once. But Yu Soran drops the bomb, Ma Ho, the absolute tank who crashed the trial. Yeah, he got completely clapped by the new Tang matriarch. Yu Jun just exhales a heavy sigh, mentally agonizing over his absolute trash tier henchman. Seriously, do these goons not come with a brain cell attached? Yu Soran keeps pressing, hyping up how Ma Ho was basically an A-list celebrity in the underworld famous for his raw destructive power. She straight up begs the boss to nuke the Tang clan off the map, demanding they launch a preemptive strike before the Tangs can fully lock in their comeback tour and start selling merch. But Yu Jun is way too calculated for that. He leans back questioning why he should even waste his energy swatting at bugs. Yu Soran, acting like a dog with a bone, refuses to drop it. She aggressively argues that taking out Ma Ho is essentially a massive neon middle finger aimed directly at him, the untouchable god of the Black Death Alliance. At this point, Yu Jun is heavily debating if he should just invest in some noise-canceling headphones or find a hobby that does not involve dealing with these dramatic villains. Her endless yapping is severely spiking his blood pressure. He shoots her a death glare, reminding her about the crystal-clear warning he dropped the other day. Do not touch the Tangs because he is keeping them alive as pawns for a future chess move. He coldly points out that Ma Ho went totally rogue. The idiot literally ignored direct orders and attacked them, basically slapping a massive target on his own forehead. He makes it crystal clear Ma Ho was the actual traitor here. Honestly, the boss man is actually relieved that the rogue tank got packed up and shipped to the afterlife by the Tang matriarch. Because, let us be real, if that insubordinate fool had managed to drag himself back home, Yu Jun would have personally tortured him to death anyway. Still, the Dark Overlord has to admit it is pretty damn spicy that this brand new leader actually managed to flatline a monster like Ma Ho. After all, the guy was a walking natural disaster who never went down easy. He snaps his fingers. Instantly, Shadows step forward, ready to execute his command, drag the Tang clan matriarch to the Sichuan summit. Cut to Yang Ming pouring his heart out. He looks at his mom, dropping serious respect for the insane hustle she just pulled off. Stepping back into the boss chair was not easy. She confesses that handling the clan's internal chaos had her totally stressed out. Was she losing her touch? Not a chance. Our boy shuts down her doubts immediately, hyping up her flawless execution. He compares her comeback to a Michelin star chef cooking a masterpiece blindfolded. But one tiny detail still bugs him. Why was she capping her aura again? He half joked that she might just be playing the role of a helpless housewife. A smirk crosses her face. She knew her son's sharp senses would pick up on the disguise instantly. Still, her stealth was next level. Homegirl was literally cloaking a nuke-level presence like it was absolutely nothing. Since she officially shattered the Fire Realm barrier, what was the point of laying low? She was untouchable now. Our gorgeous matriarch flexes a little. This was not some basic stealth. This was the legendary vein-sealing concealment, a top-tier family secret. She needs him to master this exact shadow game. And to make it click, we are diving straight into a massive flashback. Carrying the weight of their bloodline, she decides it is finally time to drop some heavy lore about the absolute monster who founded the Tang dynasty. Yang Ming takes a deep breath. He knows these ancestral lore drops always hit harder than a Netflix thriller. Flashback to a forgotten Sichuan village. The vibes were apocalyptic as a brutal flesh-eating plague wiped the map. No time for tears, no time for graves. Villagers were torching bodies by the dozen just to keep the infection at bay. The entire population was basically on death row. Well, everyone except a single, untouched 10-year-old kid. Standing totally healthy among walking corpses, yeah, that instantly painted a massive target on his back. Panic breeds paranoia. The dying locals branded this innocent kid a demon, blaming him for dragging hell to their doorstep. Looking like the Grim Reaper's personal sidekick, he faced a mob that was way past the point of logical thinking. Hunted by the infected, the boy bolted. He scrambled into a damp, pitch-black cave just to dodge the brutal downpour. Hunger pushed him to the edge. Sneaking through the shadows, he survived by swiping sacrificial offerings off the local shrines. Living like a phantom, he stayed alive. But on day 3, the free food completely stopped. He crept out of hiding only to walk into a total nightmare. Silence. Every single villager had flatlined. He won the ultimate survival game, but the prize was an empty graveyard. Drifting through the ruins, he questioned his bizarre immunity. He barely had time to think before a squad of menacing shadows dropped in out of nowhere. Their boss took one look and realized the kid possessed an insane god-tier resistance to toxins. Enter the infamous Moonshadow sect. These guys were the absolute scum of the Morim world. Their whole brand, snatching up vulnerable kids from across the continent. They forged these orphans into mindless killing machines, chaining them down by feeding them lethal toxins and drip-feeding the antidotes. Tossed into this meat grinder, our boy evolved fast. He morphed into a cold-blooded operative in record time, but reality hit hard. He watched his fellow child killers literally melt from the inside out when their meds were cut off. Suddenly, the puzzle pieces snapped together. That plague was not bad luck. It was a biological test run launched by this exact cult. Rage became his fuel. He locked in, taking on the most suicidal, blood-soaked missions just to grind his stats up. He slaughtered his targets with zero hesitation. Within years, his kill count and skill level totally eclipsed the veteran masters. The big boss was completely blown away. Rewarding this lethal prodigy, he crowned him as one of the elite 5 great assassins. The leader offered him literally anything: money, power, women. But he was totally shaken when our edgy anti-hero Stone Cold rejected the perks. Words said one thing, but those dead eyes screamed another. Everyone in that room could feel his intense psychopathic thirst for their blood. Surviving countless bloodbaths against top-tier beasts, his combat abilities hit an ungodly ceiling. He did not just copy their dark arts. He hijacked their entire system to forge his own catastrophic fighting style. All that suffering exploded into his ultimate masterpiece, the legendary First Flower Reign of the Sky technique. Flash forward, the entire toxic syndicate gets absolutely deleted in a single night. Walking over their ashes, he planted his roots back in Sichuan. Those roots grew into the overpowered Tang dynasty. And trust me, the Murim still violently shakes at the mention of his terrifying alias, the Invisible Guest. Moral of the story: you cannot outshadow a phantom packing, a god-tier arsenal of poison. But right at the climax, homeboy is knocked out cold. Annoyed, our gorgeous mom pinches his cheek, snapping him back to reality. Blinking through the brain fog, Young Ming groans. He asks how this whole revenge movie connects to the vein sealing trick. She drops the mic. To wipe out a sect loaded with Fire Realm beasts, including the 5 great assassins and their untouchable boss, he needed the ultimate stealth to survive. She leans in close. The vibe shifts as she prepares to drop the ultimate lore on how this guy soloed an entire army. Tang Yunmyung interrupts, guessing it had to be the Flower Reign of the Sky technique. He figures an area of effect attack like that makes enemy headcounts completely useless. His mom nods, confirming the name, but then she drops a massive plot twist. It is absolutely not your standard throwing knife spam. It is pure, raw energy manipulation. That completely blows Yeonmyung's mind, making him demand the actual breakdown of this legendary move. She breaks it down. When you hit the Fire Realm, physical brawls are basically obsolete. It is all about aura clashing against aura. Regular throwing stars. Total garbage against the heavy-duty energy shields. That top-tier Fire Realm bosses passively rock. Yeonmyung processes this. It clicks perfectly. Tossing sharp metal at a literal force field is basically a joke. Down in this tier, you gotta fight magic with magic. So if you manage to wrap hundreds of daggers in raw aura and unleash a literal hurricane, no amount of defensive buffs can save the target. It shreds straight through. We are talking about an ultimate boss killer technique that makes the Whirling Frenzy look like child's play. But here's the catch. Even for an absolute monster at Mahana control, keeping that much internal energy dialed up to 11 is practically impossible. His mom catches that confused look on his face instantly. She knows exactly what is bugging him and drops the missing puzzle piece, the vein sealing concealment. Turns out, the ultimate hack for mana management is just a deeply guarded family secret. Think of it like a top-tier family recipe but for kicking butt. She explains the core mechanics. You basically take all your internal energy, compress it down like a zip file, and jam it into one of your 12 main meridians. Next, you cap it off using true energy, locking the whole payload down tight. It stops the wild flow and traps the power in a perfectly sealed bubble. It is literally like vacuum sealing your meal prep, hoarding all that fresh power until you absolutely need to nuke somebody. Plus, it acts as perfect stealth. Fire Realm masters usually track energy signatures, but this makes you invisible to their radar. The only nerf: your current stats drop temporarily, since that sealed power is locked away, but thanks to muscle memory and sheer battle IQ, grinding those stats back up is a breeze. Now, if you spam this process 12 times, to lock down every single meridian, that true energy wrapping starts to weave together. It morphs into a brand new defensive shell, dubbed Dragon Scale. This aura armor absolutely completely outclasses standard defenses. We are talking literal dragon-level durability. It is like swapping out rusty iron plates for a full-blown mythic tier armor set. You are practically immune to whatever garbage the enemy throws at you. Yeonmyung pauses, thinking about the infamous Fire Dragon's poison. It makes him seriously question if actual dragons are out there roaming around. But then he realizes the sealing trick is not just for tanking hits. If he pops the seals on all 12 meridians at once, his power output spikes to 10 times his base limit. It is a massive temporary buff. Eventually, the human body reaches its cap, and the excess energy just burns off. Everything clicks. The flower rain technique basically demands you master this sealing hack first. It perfectly blends insane mana control with absolute nuke-level damage. It is basically popping an ultimate damage multiplier, perfect for speedrunning a boss, but terrible for drawn-out fights. But here comes the real tragedy. The juiciest details of the vein sealing concealment were completely wiped out back when the Demon Lord invaded. Worse yet, the super important verbal instructions vanished into thin air when two sect elders mysteriously kicked the bucket. Yeonmyeong literally smirks to himself. Plot twist, he is the one who assassinated them. It is like inheriting an overpowered gaming PC but accidentally deleting the operating system. Super awkward, but nothing a little unhinged genius cannot fix. His mom locks eyes with him, hyping him up. She knows he will absolutely conquer the flower rain of the sky purely because he is her elite kid. She hits him with that look, daring him to disagree. Yeonmyeong doesn't even hesitate. He flexes hard, reminding her that the son of the Poison Phoenix never fails at anything. With the vibes immaculate, she officially hands over the vein sealing concealment. He immediately starts theory crafting. Normally, rebuilding your mana pool after sealing it is a grind, but the fastest shortcut, chugging lethal toxins. For a normal dude, that is a one-way ticket to the afterlife. But for our absolute Giga Chad addict, it is literally a health potion. He decides skipping the training arc is the ultimate galaxy brain move, so he casually hits up Ajin to brew him a fresh batch of deadly poison. Right at that moment, a guard pulls him aside with some urgent news. A friend is waiting outside. She did not care that he was completely swamped with work. Before the guard could even finish, the door slams open, revealing a totally winded but desperate Ma Ryo. Catching him completely off guard, Yeonmyeong stares at her heaving chest and immediately demands to know what just happened. Gasping for air, she drops a bombshell. Her sister is literally going to die. This vague panic leaves him totally lost. Hearing those words hits him like a truck. Pure panic flashes across his features, and he immediately pushes her to rush for a medic, but her voice completely shatters as the tears start falling. Through her sobs, she admits they already dragged her to every specialist in town. She sounds utterly defeated. In a barely audible whisper, she confesses that her sister's condition makes zero medical sense, and modern medicine literally cannot touch it. Yeonmyeong's jaw hits the floor, looking like a college kid, who just flipped a final exam over and realized it is all blank. Okay, totally kidding on that last part. Getting serious, he carefully questions the sobbing girl to see if this is some kind of massive internal trauma. Wiping her wet cheeks, she shakes her head and finally spills the dark family secret. Her voice shaking like a leaf, she drops the terrifying truth. Her sister is cursed with the 9 yin severed meridians, which is basically a sheer death sentence. We find out that way back in the martial arts lore, right alongside the legendary Blazing Sun Palace, there was this underground, insanely overpowered faction called the Northern Sea Ice Palace. These guys mastered the raw essence of frost. Their moves were not just combat tricks, they were literal lifesavers for anyone cursed with massive amounts of extreme yin energy from birth. But if you had that energy without learning their specific freezing techniques, you were basically screwed. Your body would slowly tear itself apart with unexplainable lethal symptoms. The puzzle pieces finally click in his head. Her family actually shares bloodlines with that mythical ice faction. She nods, clarifying that they are not straight from the main branch, but incredibly distant relatives. Generations ago, their ancestors put down roots in Sichuan and married into the legendary Tang clan, literally the absolute heavyweights of that era. Mastering those frost skills was their only ticket out of this curse. But here's the massive catch. The elite Sichuan Tang guys were obsessed with lethal toxins and throwing knives. Nobody in that entire stronghold knew a single thing about manipulating frost. All those ancient life-saving techniques got completely wiped from their history books as time marched on. Now this genetic nightmare acts like a ticking time bomb, claiming a victim from their bloodline every couple of decades. Gearing up to formulate a game plan, he starts to speak, but she suddenly cuts him right off. Cut to them pulling up to her crib and his brain straight up short circuits. The entire building is literally encased in a thick, terrifying shell of frost. Stepping inside, she instantly breaks down crying, seeing how unbelievably fast the sickness mutated while she was gone. The girl who used to be full of life is now just a human popsicle, trapped inside a block of solid ice. That horrible visual absolutely shreds her soul. Taking a step deeper into the sub-zero bedroom, the vicious chill instantly bites at his skin. The temperature drops so insanely low, it feels like it could shatter your actual soul. The insane gravity of this rescue mission finally hits him, proving to be 10 times worse than he imagined. Looking back at his weeping friend, he drops his voice to a dead serious whisper. Laced with heavy dread, he tells her to brace herself, making it painfully clear that there is zero guarantee that her sibling makes it out alive. Those gut-wrenching words hit her like a sniper shot, completely shattering her reality. Rooted to the spot, her brain simply refuses to process the absolute nightmare playing out in front of her eyes. He softly breaks down the science of it all, detailing how the dying girl desperately held on to a fragile internal balance, using sheer willpower to fight off that lethal frost. But then he delivers the ultimate gut punch. Her body is officially tapped out, passed out and clinging to life by a thread. She is burning her last drops of stamina, just to lock down her blood vessels from the creeping frostbite. Watching her sister fade away, she completely misreads his diagnosis and drops to her knees in pure hysterics, wailing in agony. She genuinely believes this is the end of the line. But that soul-crushing despair suddenly flips into a tiny spark of hope. When he drops a major plot twist, he can literally siphon that freezing energy straight out of her system. However, his next warning instantly kills the vibe. He lays out the massive deadly risks involved, stating that if her body rejects the purge, or if the frost backfires on him, they are both dead. A heavy silence fills the room as he internally battles his own doubts. He is completely locked in and ready to tackle this insanely dangerous procedure, fully aware that her life literally hangs in the balance. Messing up and losing his best friend's loved one just is not an option. So he tosses the ultimate choice right into Mirio's lap. Knowing absolutely how gut-wrenching this call is, her eyes flash with pure desperation and grit. Mirio realizes they have hit rock bottom, with zero other options to save her sister, and throwing in the towel, without betting it all on this wild gamble, is completely out of the question. Even knowing the massive risks to both her sibling and Yang Ming, that fierce sisterly bond pushes her to pull the trigger. She looks Yang Ming dead in the eye and tells him to do whatever it takes to bring her back. Fully committing to this massive undertaking, he starts setting up the insane ritual. Cut to the setup phase where Miyako glares intensely while Yang Ming and his crew start stripping her sister down. She immediately speaks up, throwing massive shade and demanding to know why taking off clothes is supposed to heal anyone. Keeping his cool, Yang Ming breaks it down for Mirio, stating that any fabric completely blocks the crucial energy flow required to pull this off. Basically, the clothes have to go, period. Taking a deep breath, he gears up to blast his raw aura straight into the girl's skull, planning to systematically yank the freezing curse out of all 9 energy pathways, one after another. After flawlessly pulling the frost from her forehead, our guy zeroes in on her heart center. Pushing deeper, he hits a critical bottleneck that screams for focus, but without missing a single beat, he charges forward with the risky extraction. Out of nowhere, the frost power spikes insanely high, wrapping Yang Ming in a deathly chill that threatens to totally body him. The sheer freezing force refuses to back down, literally turning their living room into a discount Mount Everest blizzard. Panic completely washes over Mirio as she watches in pure horror, while solid ice swallows half of Yang Ming's body. But even while turning into a human popsicle, he refuses to quit. Running on pure willpower, he manages to rip the freezing energy out from his own upper pathways, step by step. Still, this savage frostbite is pushing way past what any normal human can physically tank. Realizing he is stepping into the danger zone, he calculates his next move, knowing that pushing further means turning into a literal ice sculpture. It is a massive gamble, basically the equivalent of microwaving tinfoil for a quick snack. Taking a split-second breather inside this blizzard, our hero quickly formulates a backup plan. Looking at this absolutely brutal scenario, he thinks that treating hardcore venom would honestly be a total breeze compared to this icy nightmare. Then, like a flash, a core memory hits him like a truck. It is the big brain advice from Aejon's grandpa, back at the Medicine King Hall. The old master dropped some serious wisdom back then, claiming that medicine and lethal toxins, while totally opposite, basically operate on the exact same wavelength. Either one will absolutely wreck your system if the dosage crosses the absolute limit of what your stats can handle. It is exactly like trying to add a tiny kick of hot sauce to your noodles but accidentally dumping in enough ghost pepper to melt your face off. Seeing the glaring connection between overloaded fire energy, evolving into pure flame venom, and this insane chill, acting exactly like a freezing toxin, Yang Ming taps into his god-tier medical library. The legendary poison purifying technique instantly clicks in his head, an ultra-rare cheat skill designed perfectly to delete lethal corruption from the bloodstream. Eyes locked with absolute resolve, he immediately fires up the purification art. His anatomy responds on pure autopilot, countering the savage frost that is trying to freeze his actual soul. Because he already ripped out so much chill, the remaining energy fights back like a cornered beast. But he stands his ground, knowing that if he treats this ice like raw venom, it can be totally cancelled out before it flatlines them. Flexing his master skills, he starts literally eating the frost aura. Second by second, he devours the sub-zero power, wiping it completely out of the Ice Queen's system. Slowly but surely, her deadly frostbite melts away, and her eyelids slowly flutter as she wakes up from her frozen coma. Completely shocked by the feeling of his hand, pressed flat against her bare stomach, her face instantly turns bright red. Talk about a crazy jump scare, like waking up from a deep sleep, only to find your ultimate crush hovering right over your face. Totally shook and panicking inside, as reality hits her, she glances over and spots Mirio absolutely bawling her eyes out. They lock eyes in a massive wave of pure feels, and instantly both girls just start ugly crying together. All that trauma, massive relief, and crazy thankfulness pours out over the literal miracle they just witnessed. While the sisters soak up this emotional reunion, the new girl, Miso, looks at Mirio asking if this guy is the absolute legend who saved her life. Mirio nods yes, though. Miso is highly confused why his hand is still planted on her abs. Mirio quickly whispers that the dude is just deeply focused on the healing. They decide to just let him crash until he wakes up naturally. Seriously, you do not want to interrupt this guy's power nap, especially when he is literally saving lives in his sleep. Meanwhile, Yeonmyeong is treating this freezing aura like straight-up magic juice. This massive wave of raw power is way too intense for his system to absorb at once, and if he just ignores it, it will completely evaporate. Not on his watch. Yeonmyeong locks in, realizing this is a golden ticket to devour every single drop of that frost energy, and blast right through his blocked energy channels. It is practically like stumbling onto a mythic loot drop, and finally cracking the code. Before he even finishes hyping himself up, his first pathway floods with pure power, getting him thinking, just how many of these channels can he unlock once he drains this entire blizzard? Fast forward through the grind. Yeonmyeong is absolutely shook. He actually maxed out 4 whole meridians, completely blowing his own predictions out of the water. Boom! This massive flex leaves him with literally 4 times the mana pool he started with. But here is the catch. His immediate physical combat stats temporarily tanked since all that fresh juice is locked deep inside those pathways. So, what is his genius backup plan? Chugging literal venom to bridge the gap. The dude treats lethal toxins like a morning espresso. It is wild, honestly, like stockpiling a mountain of heavy-duty batteries, just to force a chaotic quick charge. He blinks, snapping back to reality, only to catch both girls staring at him like he grew a second head. Panicking slightly, Yeonmyeong yanks his hand back, but Miso jumps in, totally chilling him out by saying he shouldn't stress about the awkwardness. Mirio already gave her the full rundown. She drops a super genuine thank you, while he just brushes it off, claiming it is strictly his job, as the clan leader, to protect his people. Suddenly chaos hits. Totally misreading the vibe, their dad bursts into the room going absolute silverback gorilla mode, screaming his lungs out at Yeonmyeong. The girls instantly dive into damage control, frantically breaking down how the guy actually saved her life. Cue the dramatic shift. The dad instantly drops to his knees, utterly crushed by guilt for snapping at the hero. Playing it cool, Yeonmyeong tells him that literally any dad would have reacted the exact same way. The heavy tension melts, and the father, now beaming with pure relief, pours out his heart, thanking Yeonmyeong for bringing his kids back from the brink. Things get a little deep as the dad opens up, revealing he originally threw down roots in the Tang clan territory, all because he fell head over heels for a woman from their family. Tragically, a fatal illness took her away from him. Desperate, he blew through his entire life savings hunting for a miracle cure for his girls, but hit a massive dead end. Choking back tears, he swears absolute loyalty, promising Yeonmyeong that from this day forward, he will be his ultimate ride or die whenever he calls.